Good evening. I'm calling this meeting of the Sacramento City Unified School District Board of Education back to order. If I can please have quiet. Thank you. Appreciate it. Item 4.0, the Pledge of Allegiance. 4.1, the Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Superintendent Jorge Aguilar.
Please stand. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4.2, our broadcast statement. This evening's broadcast statement will be read by our board member, Eng Olson.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being recorded in its entirety and will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air Sunday, March 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. and Monday, March 9th at noon, and also webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. We welcome members of the audience to address the board. Please complete a speaker form located in the back of the community room and give them to our communications representative along with any handouts you may have for the board prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Please limit comments during public comment to items that are not on the agenda. If you do comment on an item that is on the agenda, we will ask that you please defer your comments until your item comes up on the agenda. Please also turn off your cell phones or place them on silent or vibrate.
Thank you, Board Member Olson. Item 4.3, our stellar student recognition. Tonight, we're proud to honor and recognize the students from Luther Burbank High School working on our Sacramento County Office of Education Youth Initiative. And this evening's presentation will be done by Board Member Vang.
Thank you, President Ryan. So tonight, I have the honor of introducing our amazing stellar students from Luther Burbank from New Age Latinas. New Age Latinas, for those who have not heard of the organization, is an after-school leadership class for 9th and 12th through 9th and 12th grade students with a concentration of helping Latino youth to overcome setbacks in achieving their academic, social, emotional, cultural, and linguistic goals. This group was established in 2006 with the goal to help Latino students overcome barriers and graduate from high school. Since October 2019, New Age Latina students have been working on the SCOE Youth Initiative, Action Civics Census 2020. I'm incredibly inspired and energized by our young folks, and I just want to say thank you so much for being here today and for pouring your hard work and your heart work to make sure that our communities are seen and that they're heard. But most importantly, I just want to share with all of you that the work that you do is really about, at the end of the day, building community and building power. And that's what the census is about. It's really about being counted and making sure our hard to count families are part of the process. And so I just want to congratulate each and every one of you, and I'm super excited to see your presentation. And I'll come down a little bit to hand you a certificate along with a member, Leticia Garcia, but I would love for y'all to come up and do your presentation.
Good evening, distinguished board members, Superintendent Aguilar, and the Sacramento community. My name is Araceli Valladares, and I am a senior at Luther Burbank High School. I am part of New Age Latinas, which is an after-school leadership class for 9th through 12th graders, with a concentration on helping the Latina youth to overcome setbacks and achieving their academic, socio-emotional, culture, and linguistic goals. As part of our goals to serve our community is to organize bilingual community events in Spanish and English to promote cultural and social justice that enhance their identity and give them a strong sense of belonging, which helps closing the achievement gap of Latina students. Therefore, we are working on the Census 2020 campaign with SCOE Youth Initiative, which is giving us the opportunity to develop our civic engagement skills. For our Census 2020 campaign, we are planning to reach out to the community. This is our very first presentation promoting our campaign. Thank you for this opportunity. We will also be doing other presentations. For example, we will be presenting at the next DLAC and ELAC meetings. We will be doing classroom presentations in Spanish and English, other events including a showcase at the SCOE office, Now, I would like to ask my classmates Uriah and Lupita to do the Google slide presentations and explain why we are doing this campaign.
Good evening. My name is Uriah Laneige, and I am a senior at Luther Burbank High School.
Good evening. My name is Lupita Flores. I'm a junior at Luther Burbank.
So,
And I do want to share, Rylan, we've been experiencing some technical difficulties. So for those of you watching this at home, you might not be getting the slideshow at home, and our technical department has contacted the vendor to find out how to repair this as quickly as possible.
so what is the census? The census is a number count of how many people lives in a household in every state across the U.S. By counting how the massive population in the U.S., each homes will receive an invitation to respond to a short questionnaires online, by phone, or by mail. This happens every decades.
The reason why the census is very important is because communities of unrepresented people are being left out of any decision making for the communities that they actually live in. And it is our time and job to flip being a misrepresented minority to a socially involved community.
The importance of census. The result of the census will help lawmakers, business owners, and many others to make critical decisions that can help our communities. According to the Census Bureau website, the main importance of the census are federal fundings, fair representations, emergency responses, fair redistricting, and business decisions. Federal fundings. The result of this 2020 census will inform decisions about allocating hundreds of billions of dollars in federal fundings to our communities, and these federal fundings will be sent to hospitals, schools, and departments, and it would also be sent to programs and services. Fair representation is all about fair representation. The result of the census determines the numbers of seats each state gets in the House of Representatives. Through census, California have 53 representatives in the House of Reps and 2 senators. Emergency response. First responders and disaster recovery personnel use census data to help identify where and how much help is needed. And this can help in everything from tracking disease outbreaks to improving child health. Redistricting. States and local officials use the census data to help redraw congressional, state, and local boundaries to meet the one person, one vote rule, meaning that a person's voting power must be equalized to another person's power. Business decisions. Business owners use the census data to choose where to put their buildings, offices, and stores to areas in our communities. Not only it creates more resources and community goods, it creates jobs for people who are unemployed. Like I said before, federal fundings are sent to programs for education, healthcare, and other services to help support those who can't support themselves. In Census 2010, about $115 billion was sent towards to 55 programs in California. These programs such as Medi-Cal, which helps some families who don't have health insurance, and school lunch programs, school breakfast and lunch programs, which help students gain free lunch and breakfast for free. And Section 8 housings, which helps families who are low-income tenants get housing from the help from the government.
So roughly around 327 million people live in the U.S., and of those millions that participated in the last census, according to the Census Bureau, 62% were white, whereas Pacific Islanders and Native Americans take up less than a single percentage. And as you can see on the other pie chart, the red represents the females and the blue represents the male, which is showing us that there is still a very big portion of men that are still unaware of the importance the census can bring on the community. And another little detail that I would like to give is that between the years of 2000 and 2010, the U.S. population grew from 281 million to 308 million to now, once again, 327 million. So now we have all these people that need to be aware and participate so we can see some real change happening to our community. In order to have a successful census this year, make sure to check your mail starting March 12 until April 1st to see if you receive an invitation to participate. But if you don't, it's okay because you can also do it online through their website. And I know there's a lot of fear as to whether or not there's a citizenship question, and I'm here to tell you there isn't one. So your privacy and your safety is very secured. Some of the questions will be how many people live, or rent, or even simply stay in each household, and what your relation to the person. So it's very simple questions that you shouldn't fear. And this year, the online questionnaire will be in 13 languages, such as French, Korean, Russian, Japanese, Polish, etc. And lastly, don't forget to submit your census questionnaire because it is required by law to fill it out. And from the months of May to July, census takers will visit home that haven't responded to help make sure that everyone is counted.
Wonderful.
Thank you for listening, and I will now like to open up for questions.
So I just want to make sure, because we have a full house tonight, that I repeat what you said. There is no citizenship question, and it's such an important thing that we hear to the back of the room as you're out there educating our community about how critical it is that they be counted. Board Member Vang, would you like to present the certificates to our students at this point? Wonderful. And then we would love to take a picture with you. And I want to offer our sincere gratitude to our incredible educator, Liz Villanueva, who is a former Teacher of the Year and helping to lead this critical work. Please join me in giving her a round of applause.
Thank you.
And as we hand out the certificates before we take a photo with these inspiring young students, I do want to share that we're very proud that we're able to offer childcare and healthy snacks just next door in our Parent Resource Center. So if anyone wants to take advantage of that tonight, we have 2 wonderful long-term educators available as well.
No playing, no playing.
Down 3. 1, 2, 3. More. 1, 2, 3.
Again, we're so proud of you for the work that you're doing in our community. Let's give a final round of applause to our students from Luther Burbank High School. Item 5.0, announcement of action taken in closed session.
Yes, Madam President, there are 3 action items to announce out of closed session, and I will make them all. Resolution number 2019-2020-F, a resolution of non-reelection of probationary certificated employees, was approved by the board by a 7-0 vote. Resolution number 2019-20-J, a resolution of release and non-reelection of certificated administrators, was approved by 7-0 unanimous vote by the board. The last resolution, resolution number 2019-20-H, a resolution of release dash reassignment of certificated administrators, was approved by a 6-0 vote with Board Member Moraski absent. That concludes all the announcements out of closed session. Madam President.
Thank you. Did you also announce the one decision on the expulsion?
Madam President, that is on the consent agenda by law.
Thank you very much. Item 6.0, agenda adoption. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Student preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.0, public comment. Members of the public will have an opportunity to address the board on non-agendized items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. For those of you wishing to speak in public comment tonight, we ask that you fill out a yellow card available at the entrance. Speakers will be called in the order that requests are received. We ask that comments are limited with no more than 15 minutes per single topic. Let me ask before we assign time for public comment tonight, how many public commenters do we have?
President Ryan, we have 44 public comments.
Okay, so rather than limit 15 minutes per topic, we'll do 1 minute per commenter to allow for all 44 public commenters to make their voices heard. Okay. If you please
step up
call
to
up
the
the
podium.
And I want to let the public know that you also have an opportunity to combine your time. So if a group of you would like to combine your time or comment in group, you can do that as well. Just let us know and we'll put the time on the clock.
Please step up when I call your name. Jason Mallory, Shayna Just, Shannon Schmidt, Rich Vasquez, and Allison French Tubo.
Oh, the tough decisions we have to make.
Yes, if you'll give your copies of materials to Ann, she'll pass them out to all of us. Thank you.
Hello.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. If you can please try and speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Okay, so hello everyone. I have two suggestions regarding the use of substitute and guest teachers to improve the functionality of Sac City Unified School District and to do so in a way which will pay for itself in increased ADA, reduced need for behavioral intervention, and increased effectiveness of the Sac City Unified School District education product. The first is using picture seating charts for substitute teachers rather than the page roll, which enables lots of mischief. So that's number one. I'll, for the sake of time, just move on to number two, which is why I'm dressed like this, which is Lysol or some other disinfectant, basically for the classrooms of sick teachers. When a teacher is sick and there is very high probability of germs in the classroom, substitute teachers going into cover should be able to spray the entire room with some type of disinfectant like Lysol to kill the germs and prevent further illness. Lysol is not free, but preventing the loss of ADA will increase ADA money.
Thank you, Jason.
As well, sure, I'll just
Please
give
go
you
ahead.
guys a note.
And Jason, thank you. We have your comments in front of us, and we have both suggestions. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Okay, have a great day.
Hi, I'm Shannon Just, Luther Burbank. It's on a related topic, not quite. First of all, with the virus thing, thanks for sending out sincerely those posters. However, you should know that at high schools, most classrooms don't have sinks, and so students cannot wash their hands, but we're in violation of board district policy if we have hand sanitizer or use Lysol, because we're only supposed to use different private stuff. So it's virtually impossible to follow those rules. We also don't have Kleenex, right, unless teachers provide it themselves. But what I'm really concerned with is we've got state testing starting March 16th. We've got laptops and keyboards and mice that hundreds of kids are going to be touching every single day, and we have zero way to sanitize them in between use, right? And those are just giant germ spreaders. And so, it would be nice if we had some kind of some way to sanitize those surfaces without violating policy or having to provide it ourselves. Because seriously, at high schools, we're going to be cycling 400 kids a day touching keyboards and mice and laptops, and we've got no way to sanitize them between use. So if you could consider that and come up with some way to do that, that would be great.
Thank you. That's an excellent suggestion. And I do want to say, I suspect we're going to have several comments related to coronavirus this evening. The superintendent will be providing an update on our proactive efforts to address this throughout the district.
Good evening, board members. My name is Shannon Schmidt. I'm the Dean of Students at the California Montessori Project Capitol Campus. It's nice to see all of you. Just a switch in topics here. This is just a friendly visit giving you some highlights of what's happening at our campus right now. As we speak, our 5th and 6th graders are at the Point Bonita YMCA at their milestone science focus trip in the Marin Headlands, probably enjoying some s'mores right now. We also have teachers that are completing report cards and preparing for parent-teacher conferences, which will go on next week. And we're also excited to announce that we have a number of our staff attending the American Montessori Society Convention that's happening in Dallas, Texas next week. We'll have educators from all over the world, which should be interesting. We're hoping that this will still be occurring, talking about sharing ideas regarding Montessori education. So anyway, again, just a friendly visit from CMP. It's nice to see all of you. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vasquez?
Hello, good evening, President Ryan, Superintendent Aguilar, and members of the board. First and foremost, again,
Mr.
thank
Vasquez,
you.
can you pause for 1 second? I'm sorry, Ann. I'm having a really hard time hearing our speakers, and I suspect that people in the audience are too. Could you please have them turn up the microphone? We're going to have you wait for 1 second, and then we'll reset your clock. If I'm not going to hear baby coos, though, are a really nice thing. Right? Instant stress relief. Thanks for your patience. Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Mr. Vasquez.
Today was SAT day in the district, so thank you very much. I'm a product of the district, 11 years in the district. I didn't know no SAT. I never took no ACT, no nothing, so I know opportunities. So thank you for providing that for my daughter. She's a junior, and she came home talking about it. Like I said, those things matter. Some people think it doesn't matter. $50 is a lot. That's half a day. Some people making minimum wage. That's half their day, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I need to go back to the teacher vacancy. It's really killing our campus. It's been an ongoing thing I'm finding out for multiple years, and we need to get ahead of that. Again, our scores are beat up, our kids are beat up. Social emotional instances, my daughter broke down from the teacher vacancy. Like, if the kids know they're going to a class to do nothing. They know that they're not going to get education. The kids know that. Like I said, what are we going to do about it? The calendar, can we get ahead of that? Maybe that's part of it. I'm looking at Elk Grove. They're already hiring people. We're laying off and worrying about pink slips and whatnot. So can we get ahead of the calendar? My kids need teachers. Johnson needs teachers, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez.
Good evening, board. I'm Allison French-Tubo. I would like to comment that we need more information and transparency about responsibility for lesson planning in classrooms with long-term subs in light of our teacher vacancies. Finding it very hard to understand what the district's policy is, although I do know that the SCTA contract does not put the responsibility on either the teacher who is on leave or the substitute, clearly. And regarding SCTA's labor agreement, I was really hoping to hear today some exciting information about negotiations, having started 2 days ago, but it was shared with me SCTA's bargaining update, and it looks to me like they got a little confused and thought that their role was to direct the district's assignment of negotiators, and clearly that's not the role that any negotiating party needs to play. I don't need to see board president in the negotiations. That's not what you're elected for. So I encourage the board to take action to move forward on any legal action to keep this going.
Okay, next group, Tamara Toby, Anita Warmack, Marissa Munzing, Lupe Vasquez, and Christine Kerr.
I'm going to talk fast. Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Tamara Toby, and I'm a teacher in the Parent Participation Preschool program. I first want to thank Leticia Garcia, Mr. Aguilar, and Michael Minnick for coming out and seeing what our program is all about. Our Parent Participation program has been around since 1948. Sac City is the 5th city in California to pioneer this amazing program. Our program would help reduce the amount of behavior plans and special education services. When you go into any kindergarten classroom and you see a kindergarten teacher in there with 24 students trying to manage a classroom with students that can't sit on the carpet, that are drawing on the walls, our program gets these kids ready for the classroom. I want you to look out there. If you are with us tonight, I want you to please stand up. As you can see, these parents that are out there tonight, when they get those kindergarten packets to volunteer in the classroom, they are going to be the first ones to turn them in.
And thank you too. I'm Anita Warmack, a preschool teacher for almost 32 years. Thank you so much, Superintendent Aguilar, for coming out to our Read Across America and for the invitation for me to participate in the group to see what we can do to save our program. As Ms. Tamara said, that we work with the children, but we also prepare those parents who are the ones that you will not call the duck and cover drill when they enter, but you'll rush to the front to see what are you going to do to help us in our school today. Our parents are extremely supportive of the school district, and they are prepared to help their children continue.
Thank you very much. And thank you to our little speakers. Thank you. Are you combining your time?
No, we'll be each separate, but we're commenting together.
No
yeah.
problem.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Aguilar, Board President Ryan, and members of the board. Thank you for providing us with this opportunity to speak. My name is Marissa Munzing, and I direct school-based programs at the Health Education Council, a nonprofit organization with a 29-year history of working with the community and with partners to cultivate health and well-being in underserved communities. We've had the honor of working with Sac City Unified in a variety of ways, from the wellness policy to nutrition education and walking groups and so much more. But tonight, two of my colleagues who are also parents in Sac City Unified will be sharing about some of the work that they have done. These two parents, as well as others, came together to create a parent survey that they then administered to their peers to really identify the needs and assets of their community as well as schools in Sac City Unified, as well as the concerns and desires of their peers. So I'll hand it over to them, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Good evening. My name is Lupe Vasquez. I am a community health leader for the Health Education Council and the mother of two young boys who attend a Sac City school. The focus of the parent survey was to better understand the opportunities and strengths that exist in the Sac City schools and communities and the ways in which we may be able to integrate mental and physical health. We surveyed 146 parents from Sac City Unified school sites, parent activities, and the back-to-school events and community events. In addition to the survey, we conducted one focus group at Bowling Green Elementary. One of the questions that stood out for the parent survey was, where do you seek help for yourself and your family's emotional health when needed? The top answer was family and friends, followed by going to their doctor and then to the counselor. Since most of the parents go to their family and friends for emotional well-being, support groups at schools would be beneficial for parents because it would be a way for them to support one another. School support groups would also be a great opportunity for parents to be more involved in their child's school and build their trust in the school system, because in our parent survey, 22% of parents still felt unsure if their child's social and emotional learning is supported at school. And my colleague is going to say more about the survey. Thank you.
Thank you, Lupe. Good evening. My name is Christine, and I'm a parent of a Sac City student. Based on the parent survey in Sac City Unified, parents' top concerns for their child's school resulted in bullying, violence, drugs, unhealthy school meals, and unsafe drinking water. I can identify with bullying as a top concern for parents because my 9-year-old son has been a victim of bullying. The school tried many different strategies, however, we continue to deal with issues of bullying. Activities such as words of encouragement written by peers, along with mindful meditation minutes, classroom energizers, and physical activities could be a part of mental health services and have improved emotional regulation, focus, engagement, and greater compassion towards other students. Another concern from parents was access to safe drinking water at schools. 50% of Sac City parents were either unsure or confident their child did not have access to safe drinking water. While parents do have concerns regarding their child's school, they are also proud of their children's school in many ways. While I have seen my child experience bullying firsthand, other parents shared that their culture of respect, kindness, and trust within their child's school, and we should strive to all have our schools reach this potential.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your work to conduct this survey. We're really happy to say that if Measure H passes, one of the things we're hoping to do is hydration stations to address the clean water at school sites.
Thank you so much.
Next group. Elizabeth Bliss, Anthony Dalben, Mylin Olson, Brendan Hogan, and David O'Connor.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Bliss. Sorry, getting nervous. I met Ms. Tamara with my first child, was in her program, and when I first met the program, he's my first child. I didn't know all the things that my child needed to learn before kindergarten. With her, my son learned a lot. Thank God that I knew about this program for my second child. So he's been in since last year in the toddler program, and he's in it now, and he's supposed to be in it next year. But if you guys cut the program, he won't be in it. With my first child, I thought that kindergarten was to learn your numbers, your letters, how to use scissors, glue, all that stuff. Guess what? You're supposed to already know these things. If you cut this program, there are going to be so many babies that don't know what to do, when to sit down, when to stand up, when it's carpet time, because they haven't been exposed to it. Please, don't cut the preschool program.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Mylin Olson. I'm sure a lot of my fellow preschool parents will be talking about the value of early childhood education. I'd like to talk about the value of this program to our schools right now. These are the parents who will be prepared to help out in classrooms. As for myself, I have older children in school at Tahoe Elementary, as well as in the preschool program. This program buys me time to help with the elementary school. Most of my time when my daughters are in preschool, I'm either working on PTA things, at school, in the classroom, writing my presentation for the art docent program. So this is valuable right now in the schools, not just for our future classes.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I hope I am heard. This is my third and possibly final time attending an event like this concerning the Parent Participation Preschool. My son Bradley graduated from the program 2 years ago and is excelling in school. My daughter Viana graduates this year and is doing fantastic. I won't be able to take advantage of the program for another few years until my youngest, Camilla, is old enough to participate if the opportunity is still available. I am here mainly for the children and parents who will come after me, the ones who don't know about this program but might hear about it and decide to try it out. All of us in the program know what a good decision that would be, and you must as well, because I've heard the stories shared with you over the years in this forum. The investment in our kids and parents is immeasurable, but quite clear in every sense of the word, investment. A couple of years ago, I added a bedroom and bathroom to my house. The school fees alone were over $2,500. In Sacramento, development is sky high. Where did that money go? Over the past decade, the only years of my life I've really paid attention to political issues, it seems.
Thank you. You can submit the rest of your comment in writing. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
It's hard to speak right into this. Hi, my name is Brendan Hogan. I'm the father of three. I am a high school educator at a private Catholic school here in town. I send both of my youngest kids to our parent participation preschool. Schools are communities, or at least we hope they are. These schools are. These parents are my friends now. They are the coaches of the soccer teams. They are the moms of the classrooms. These are not average parents. These are parents who have shared values in the education of their kids, so much so that they give up a day a week to be there. And then they show up to meetings and they're educated on the development of their children. I don't understand what other programs work like this. This is the goal of education, to get parents to buy in, to get teachers to teach the parents and the kids, and for these kids to be successful. You have the stats. Look it up. These kids work. They work out. They're not the ones being disciplined. They're not the ones being expelled. These programs are successful because of parent buy-in and teachers connecting to us and the kids.
Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent, board members, appreciate you having us here tonight. I was going to read a letter that I had already written to all of you. I appreciate Ms. Ryan and Mr. Minnick for getting back to me, and I hope everybody else had a chance to read it. I'm very impressed by the model of what this is, and I honestly didn't know it was around for as long as it has been. But I think the thing I want to express, that the model of this preschool is incredible. Imagine if we went all 18 years of our child's educations in this way, spending a couple hours a week, each day, or each week in the class. Everybody's kids would know each other, everybody's parents would know each other, there would be accountability amongst everything. We want it to remain viable, and thanks. I probably should have read this. Appreciate your time.
Will you please give that to Ann? And thank you so much for reaching out to us.
Melissa Hymas, Richard Dahl, Mitch Steger, Jana Fisher, Delaney Fisher.
Hi there. My name is Melissa Hymas, and I'm a Sac City parent. And I'm a Sac City parent solely because of the really amazing programs you offer. I have a second grader at Alice Burney, which I could gush for an hour about how amazing that is. And by luck, we happened to find the parent participation preschool program at Tahoe. And I just wanted to share some of the behaviors. I don't know who in this room has ever raised a 3 or 4-year-old, but it is so hard. And not enough people talk about that, and it can feel kind of isolating. I've done it twice now and survived, whoop, whoop. But this program gives me so much help. I talk to other parents. I get information from Ms. Tamara. I've been tuned into new books that just help me realize that this is a season, and it's a season I feel really prepared for and to be successful moving forward. And I'm just so thankful that we have it. I think we've all met so many other parents, and we depend on each other and we count on each other, and our kids have really grown. And so I really hope that you can find a way to keep it so people can benefit in the future.
Thank you so much.
Students who attend preschool with a skillful teacher like Ms. Tamara, whose ability to create a loving and caring classroom that promotes social, emotional, and intellectual growth, are better people because of it. The benefits for the child and the community are unmatched by most any other intervention in education. These students are healthier, less likely to drop out of school, less likely to go to jail, more likely to pursue higher education, and more likely to be economically self-sufficient. As Vincent Cunningham wrote in his recent piece for The New Yorker, we are all embedded within systems, but each life, each child is an unrepeatable anecdote. If you cut this program, you will injure the future trajectories of the children in our community. And the students from under-resourced areas will be hurt the most. They risk becoming a statistic, subsumed into a mass of low expectations and bad outcomes, determined by color and class, and sustained by bureaucracy that was at best inept and at worst intractably racist. Do not allow our children to become just another statistic.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members and staff, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Mitch Steiger. My son is in the parent participation preschool at Tahoe Elementary, and I respectfully urge the board to reconsider these proposed cuts. I won't rehash my written comments, but I'll try to make 2 points. The first is that for a lot of kids like my son, this is really the only option for early education. He's not ready for anything else. He gets too scared when his parents aren't around. He doesn't speak very much. And so if this were to go away, there really would be no way for him to benefit from all the known outcomes, the positive outcomes of early education. And also just wanted to really emphasize the point that at this age, at least what I've learned from my son, is that he really learns by watching. And for better or worse, whatever his parents do, that's what he does. And the more that he can see his own parents taking an interest in his education, the more likely he is to really see the value of it, to take it seriously himself, to start building that good habit now so that as he gets older and stays involved in the school programs, that this is something that he can benefit from. We really think this is an important program, and we urge you to reconsider the proposed cuts.
Thank you. Are you combining your time?
Yeah, we're both going to
Okay.
talk. Yeah, and she wants to talk.
Thank you.
Hi, board. I'm Jana Fisher, and it absolutely breaks my heart to be up here for 2 years in a row standing up for preschool. But it's so important and critical on so many levels. Things that are spoken to us by the district as very critical things like equity, anti-bullying, and special education challenges. Okay, we don't have equity if all of us who wouldn't be able to otherwise afford to put our child in preschool, all those children will not be going to preschool without this program. Things like special education, where children who come in, for example, an autistic child in one of our classes who came in not being able to really engage or do much in the class is now thriving, doing wonderful. That's someone who maybe wouldn't have to have an aide that maybe would have before, that is able to be mainstream. This anti-bullying campaign, these children are learning social emotional skills in this critical window of time, 0 to 5, that you don't get that time back if they miss preschool and move on to kindergarten with children who are ahead of the curve because they've been able to be in some other program. So please save the preschool program. It is so critical and priceless on so many different levels for all of the parents and children involved in our community. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Delaney Fisher. I have a sister that's in parent participation preschool, and I have not seen her be so excited to go to school and see all of her friends and do all these hands-on activities that are critical for her to brain development. And she's getting ready for kindergarten, and parent participation preschool is really helping her prepare for next year when she's not going to have a parent there. And it's gradually helping her get into a place where she will be confident going into kindergarten where she's not going to have a parent there. Gradually going from parent all the time to having a parent there 1 day a week to just going to regular school. I know that was really hard for me.
Very good. Thank you.
Elliot Langford, Eric Mejia, Rebecca Gross, Drea Moore, Ava Podesta, and Nanette Podesta.
Good to see you again. Good to see you. Okay. Thank you so much for allowing all of these caring parents a chance to let you know what this program means to us. Next door to this beautiful building here, there's a place called Success Academy. It's a community day school, which is for students 4th through 8th grade. They serve mandatory and other expelled students. referred to by a school attendance review board and other high-risk youth. They focus on the development of pro-social skills, student self-esteem, and resiliency. They are intended to have a low student-to-teacher ratio. Students benefit from learning support services that include school counselors, psychologists, academic vocational counselors, or pupil discipline personnel. Ms. Tamara's classroom is thoughtfully designed for the development of pro-social skills, student self-esteem, and resiliency. She not only plays the part of an academic and vocational counselor, psychologist, and pupil disciplinary, but she trains these parents helpful ways to do the same. These parents who are paying CUSD to take part. My recommendation would be to fund as many parent participation preschool programs like Ms. Tamara's, and it would save you hundreds of thousands of dollars each year because it makes sure children are not only at or above grade level when they reach kindergarten, but have provided them with a rock-solid foundation when they start state testing by the 3rd grade.
Thank you very much. And actually, if you want to submit your comment, thank you. I thought you were going to bring her for me to hold.
So let's see her on TV then. Let's see. She'll stand up. You ready for me?
Ann?
Hi, my name is Rebecca Gross, and I'm the mother of 4 girls. My oldest is in EK at Tahoe Elementary, and my youngest is right there, and that is not her dad. That is a guy that I know because of parent participation preschool, and I'm happy to have him hold my kid. Any one of them can hold my kid. And that was not true of me a year ago. I want to let you know that we were not going to go to Tahoe. I have an EK kid there, and it was not my choice. It was not my husband's choice. He wanted me to go check out the private school programs. But then we toured, and we walked into Miss Tamara's class, and having Ada, who is in bed right now, in Miss Tamara's class, made sending Edison, my older kid, to Tahoe a really good choice. And now instead of being in that private school pipeline, we are now going to be at David Lubin next year with my older kid. And hopefully I'll have 2 in Miss Tamara's class. I also want to let you know that somebody up here said that we are not ordinary parents. We are not ordinary parents anymore. We were totally normal, any group of parents you could pick from the district, but because we have been in Miss Tamara's class, now we are special.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Eric, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the little ones behind me wearing blue shirts since they cannot speak for themselves yet. As an educator myself at the secondary level, I can attest to the importance of early childhood education. Those children I work with on a daily basis are often struggling to keep up with grade level curriculum. Oftentimes, these students share one commonality. They fail to attend an early education program. Why wait to invest in students once they're playing catch-up, rather than when they are at an age when you can instill a love for education? I love the fact that my daughter looks forward to attending Miss Paula's class every single morning. My fear is that by cutting this program, the district is essentially taking away an opportunity for young minds to fall in love with learning.
Thank you.
I'm Ava Podesta.
Okay, go ahead.
Please don't close the school because they want Hunter to learn as much as I have.
Her little brother.
Thank you, Ada. That was my grandma's name.
Hello, my name is Drea Moore, and I am a mother of a 2-year-old who is currently enrolled in the toddler program, and we have been anxiously looking forward to the 3-year-old preschool program with Miss Tamara. My son, who is 2 and just going for 1 day, this 1 day has, for the fall semester, has greatly improved his social ability, his speech, everything. We really desperately needed this program, and it was there. So I want to thank you for having had this program, and I really, really, really hope it continues, because I do have a baby who will be 2 in 2 years. So, and I really want this program to be available to him too, so that he can benefit from the education and the socialization that my older son has had. So thank you for letting me speak tonight, and please don't close the parent participation preschool.
Sarah Ross, Laurie Merritt, Annette DeGlow, Kelly O'Hagan, Lisa Shermer, Pete Larson, and Paul Arai.
Hi, my name is Sarah Ross, and my 2 oldest children are graduates of Ms. Tamara's class. My 3-year-old is currently enrolled, and my 1-year-old is looking forward to going in a couple years. My professional background is in elementary education and child development, and one reason I love Ms. Tamara's program is that it's a perfect blend of what's developmentally appropriate, like problem solving, play-based learning, and building social skills, and kindergarten preparation, like learning letters and numbers, navigating classroom culture, and following directions. The students in Ms. Tamara's class love learning because it's fun and a loving and exciting environment. One thing that I found very valuable in this is the parent education, which focuses on positive discipline. Tamara does a fabulous job of finding speakers to help us with topics that are difficult for us to navigate in the season of parenting, and it's a great resource to us. As you know, one of the top indicators of a child's academic success is parental involvement. Go into any one of these classrooms and you will see several parents there who have dedicated time and energy into preparing and implementing activities for the preschool students.
Thank you very much.
Hello, panel. My name is Pete Larson. This is Adeline, and this is my son, Jaden. And first of all, we just want to thank you. Thank you for us all being here, and thank you for us having that school back there that we get to put her into. This little girl right here learned how to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other day at the dinner table, she was able to tell me, I think it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And just the things that Miss Tamara, I would like to ask Miss Tamara to stand up. Can you stand up, Miss Tamara? Come on. That is an awesome teacher. So I want to thank Miss Tamara because she has taught my daughter things and all the kids and everything. And we just want to thank the city of Sacramento for us even having that. So that's all I really got. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, he wants to talk. Yeah, 8 seconds. Go.
Hello, my name is Jaden. This is really important to my sister because, like, if there was no school, how would they learn? How would they go to work? How would they learn things? And I just want to say this is really important. So please don't close the school down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Hello, my name is Laurie Merritt, and I am both a parent and an educator in the district. And my first impression with the district was when my son, who is going to be going into high school next year, was a toddler, and we entered the parent participation preschool program. And I think you've heard from a lot of parents tonight how valuable the program is, not only developing our young minds, but also the parents and their commitment and participation within the community and the schools as well. So I'd like to take a moment to thank Miss Anita, who is really the backbone of this program, who's retiring after 32 years. And if you think about the over 200,000 families, 2,000 families, that she's mentored as a teacher over those 32 years at different school sites and with the toddler program, and then multiply that by the teachers she's mentored in the program, bringing the number up to around 10,000, and then adding in the family nights that she does at Title I schools, where she facilitates game nights, math nights, science nights. You really can't count the number of families in our community that she's touched. And then as parents, we go out into the world and we see people struggling with their kids, and words of wisdom from Miss Anita come through me, and I'm like, hey, remember, you can't force a child to sleep, eat, or go to the bathroom, choose your battles. And when I think of all the impact and the families and the lives that she's really touched, I think what a wonderful way to honor Miss Anita and the 32 years she's spent in this district by keeping the program that she loves alive. So I would really encourage you As I'm here to show support for all the teachers and the families in the Parent Participation Preschool program, as Miss Anita is retiring this year, what a better way to show our love and appreciation for our beloved Miss Anita by keeping this program alive.
Thank
Thank you.
Annette Daglow. I've been a parent with 2 children in the program, a grandparent with 2 children in the program. I don't think anybody on the board questions the value of the program. Let's talk about the funding. I appreciate the fact that you had over 70 years without having to pay anything to fund this program straight out of your budget. Now that you do, you have to talk about what it's going to cost you. Let's look at a couple of numbers. There are currently 263 students, preschoolers, toddlers in this program, 399 parents. There will be a graduation class with 77 students in it. 74 of those students will continue on in the Sacramento City Unified School District. If you're lucky, they will be 12 years of ADA for those 74 students, but there are 263 in total. If you cancel this program, you might lose a significant number.
Thank
I
you,
want
Annette.
to close by saying you made some really bad decisions over the year that cost you ADA. You went from junior highs to middle schools. You lose ADA every day with that decision. You closed Sacramento High School. You lose ADA every day with that decision.
Thank you,
You
Annette.
opened up small high schools. Now you're not losing ADA, but you have a high administrative cost, low productivity. Let's not mess up this ADA
Thank you,
program.
Annette.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Paul Arana, and I spoke last year about how great pre-K parent participation is to my family and to the community. I'm a father of 3. I have a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 10-month-old. I've seen vast improvements in my children's language, math, and overall social interactions. So no matter how much time my wife and myself spend with my kids, we're just not able to keep up with what the school can provide. But it's not about the education, or just not only about the education. The parent participation model has strengthened my sense of community with other parents, which just so happens to be my neighbors also. And because of this, we've started to build relationships all over the neighborhood. And I believe my children are safer and the neighborhood is safer. How awesome is that? You know, we talk about tests and budgets and that we miss the human factor. We miss the intangibles. This program is not only about early education, but also about solidarity. The parents and children come from many different backgrounds and they come together for the greater good, which is our children. So please don't close the
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa Shermer. I'm the mother to 3 kids under 4, and my oldest is enrolled in David Lubin's Parent Participation Preschool with the fabulous Miss Anita. And this program honestly is a treasure, and it would be a real tragedy to see it go away. Firstly, I'm just going to go over the 3 main points. It's good for students, it's good for families, and it's good for schools. It's obviously good for students because it's an exceptional preschool program and fills a gap for middle income families that don't qualify for the low income programs and can't afford private. Also, addressing early learning needs of students is far more effective than trying to fill those gaps down the road. It's good for parents because I can honestly say I'm a much better parent for being in her program. She inspires me every day that I'm in there. We learn how to support students all the way through their educational career. And that is why Miss Anita says, when we walk into a classroom further down the road, those teachers are going to be happy to see us.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I don't think it's, there we go, now it is.
Good evening, and I want to thank the superintendent for meeting with us at the read-around the other day, the Dr. Seuss Day. We have had an amazing number of parents, grandparents, and relatives come forward, and family members come forward to talk about how good the program is for the children. I would like to talk to you for a minute about how good we are for your district. My first time in a parent participation preschool was in 1988. I have been in 5 different ones with 5 different teachers, and it's not like failing a class somewhere else. I feel I have succeeded. My 2 kids made it through Sac City schools, are adults. One came back to live in the neighborhood for this purpose.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julius McIntyre, Shanita Harden, Ann Hawley, Carrie Cornwell, Arlene Kraus.
Good evening.
Good evening, Board, and thank you for having us tonight. My name is Arlene Kraus, and I have 2 daughters at CK and McClatchy. There are some wonderful teachers they've had, and their counselor has been amazing. But you know the problems of subs, of unqualified teachers in the classroom. My daughter had no math teacher for 6 weeks. She has had over 8 Spanish teachers in the past 2 years, and that doesn't count the many, many subs that knew no Spanish. My efforts to communicate with the principal have been futile, so I have nowhere else to go but to turn to you. We have no confidence that we won't be in the same spot next year, and we need to know what you're going to do to ensure that every classroom has a qualified teacher on day 1, and they have support to do their job that they want to do for all of the children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you combining this one?
Good evening, board members. Julius McIntyre and Shanita Harden here on here on behalf of a 12-year-old African-American student that goes to Kit Carson Middle School. Last week, unfortunately, we were notified that she was being suspended on a Wednesday, and they took her out of class and they actually searched her and I asked for the education code, the search policies. They gave me the education code, and like I suspected, it says if a child is suspected of presenting an imminent threat or danger, you can search them immediately. That completely makes sense in today's day and age. The problem that I have is that the alleged incident happened the week prior. So there was 5 days in between the allegations and my goddaughter being detained and searched and criminalized. She's been suspended. We have appealed that already. There's also been some really egregious language placed in her permanent file that will follow her around for the rest of her K through 12 career and can potentially harm her future. These things are called the school to prison pipeline, and I came here and took out of my busy schedule to make sure that my goddaughter is not criminalized. Okay? It is unnecessary to search a child when you have plenty of opportunity to alert their parents, their guardians. Where's the procedures? Where's the oversight here? It's absolutely ridiculous. We've appealed the suspension. We've also requested that the language in her file, be looked at and possibly removed. We've made ourselves readily available. We have been in communication with district officials, including the ombudsman. We have not received any answer or any sort of resolution to this particular matter, and we're looking forward to receiving someone in a timely fashion.
Okay, thank you. And is Stefan Brown here? Because, Stefan Brown's in the back. He has his hand up. If you can please go see him on your way out, and thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Hawley. I'm combining my time with another parent. I'm a parent from McClatchy High School, and I want to share an event that I witnessed, which I found deeply concerning. It was Monday, August 27th, at the sophomore orientation in the auditorium. Families of all racial and ethnic backgrounds were there to support their students. Principal Peter Lambert started off the program with some housekeeping items, and then he went on to talk about the importance of graduating from high school. I think we all share that. He then delivered a statement that I find deeply troubling. Principal Lambert said, "Now, we would like you to strive for C's, but D's are okay for graduation." Let me repeat what he said again so it sinks in. Strive for C's, but D's are okay for graduation. I was really stunned by this. Why would Principal Lambert have such low expectations for these students who were predominantly from Black and brown families? What happened to strive for A's, but B's are okay for graduation? This is an example of structural racism that is perpetuated by principals who accept mediocrity and allow low expectations for their diverse student population. Nor does Mr. Lambert hire credentialed teachers for math and Spanish and biology classes. This is shameful. Mr. Superintendent, you are responsible for supervising principals to ensure that they share and implement your vision of equity and diversity and inclusion, and I applaud your vision. But it is imperative that McClatchy is led by a competent and committed principal.
Thank you. If
Mr. Superintendent, is that too much to ask?
Okay. And if you, okay, thank you. Thank you, and we also have your written comments.
George Dijon, Essie Dijon, Deanne McCollin, Wendy Bogdan, April Mazzaros, and Bill Aliano.
Okay, and I just want to make sure we're being fair and consistent with everyone. If you are combining your time, if you can just let us know so we can appropriately reflect that on the clock.
Hello, my name is A.C. John. I'm here to advocate for the HIS program. And I'm going to urge the board to support and fund this program. My husband and I have 2 children who have gone through the HIS program. Our daughter Christine graduated from the CKM in 2012, and she went on to Columbia. And my son Kweku also graduated in 2016 and went on to Yale and is gonna graduate in a few months. My family is obviously very invested in the HIS. For this program to thrive, I think that we need a very, very strong principal. When my daughter was there, Mr. Purcell was there for the first year. And then Mr. Lambert came, and within 2 years, we could see the vibe that had gone.
Thank you.
So I don't have time to explain, but you have everything that I have written.
We do. Thank
and
you
my
very
husband
much.
will continue.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is George Jan. I'm reading a statement from my son, Kweku Jan, who graduated 2016. He happened to be the student body president, and he'll be graduating from Yale in 2 months. Here's his statement. My high school education through HISP has been invaluable to my success at Yale. The program taught me how to be an effective writer, and more importantly, it expanded my worldview and the unique problems that those in other countries face through its global-centered curriculum. I'm confident that without HISP, I would have struggled so much more here at Yale. And to let the program dissolve will be an incredible disservice to McClatchy and to the entire Sac City Unified School District. The strength of the program came entirely from its passionate teachers and leaders, including the involved parents. It's imperative that these teachers be supported by the school administration and given resources to do what they do best.
Thank you very much.
Here's my prop.
Deanne McCallan, a parent from McClatchy. I have an expectation that you are addressing the January 10th allegations of the misuse of student funds. I hope that you are doing this sooner rather than later, though it already feels like a little later. It sure would be nice for the early education folks here in the room tonight to have an opportunity for HISP and similar Sac City Unified School District programs 10 years from now. The way things have been going, one has to wonder what this district will have to offer them tomorrow. My other topic is a question as to where is a follow-up to a parent forum meeting that was held late October. We need more opportunities to speak, to ask questions, that have a dialogue from the board and our administration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Wendy Bogdan, a parent of a CKM McClatchy student. I have to admit that I'm kind of dismayed over the last couple of months as I've kind of gotten to know more of the population at CKM McClatchy and the families to discover that the top leadership at McClatchy demonstrates kind of this ongoing negligence in leadership. And as I hear the stories and I experience the fatigue of the families who have tried to take this issue on, it's a little overwhelming. Leadership matters a lot in getting the right people into the spots, monitoring them, and then sometimes taking the very, very difficult decisions to have them move on. It's just an incredibly challenging thing, but I hope that you'll bear down on that. Also just want to contrast that with Sutter, which is a high expectations, high support school, and the culture is just very dramatically different.
Thank you very much. You'll be combining your time?
We're combining, but I don't know if they said both our names or.
I was called. My name is Bill Alio. I'm ceding my 1 minute to April Mazzaros. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. April Mazzaros. I ask you tonight, what is good leadership? A simple definition is that good leaders have vision, courage, integrity, humility and focus, and the ability to plan strategically and catalyze cooperation amongst their team to obtain a goal. They are the architects that can redesign and transform, creating a lasting impact. Tonight, I speak to you, Superintendent, as the leader of our district. And given my interpretation of leadership, what does the leadership at C.K. McClatchy High School look like? In November 2019, we sent you a petition outlining the challenges at the school, signed by over 1,100 community members, staff, and students. On behalf of these signees, I won't recount all the issues, but remind you of some of them through the lens of leadership. CKM began the school year with a disproportionately high level of substitute teachers, more than 15. Stakeholders called on the principal time and time again to find ways for students to obtain coursework remediation with little success. Only with the mounting pressure from the community and district did the principal start to respond. These are not the actions of a leader with vision or the ability to plan strategically. In 2018, the principal recommended hiring an AP biology candidate that was unqualified, and you know the fallout from that. This is not the action of a leader who has humility and courage. In January of this year, it was uncovered that the principal utilized student-raised funds from the classes of 2017 and 18 for purposes that are unacceptable. These are not the actions of a leader who has integrity or focus for our students. As far back as 2016, there have been overwhelming votes of no confidence by the CKM staff against this principal, over 80% of these staff members. This is not the leader who catalyzes cooperation amongst their team. Leadership is a duty, hard work, and a privilege, and Superintendent, please be our architect, redesign CK McClatchy High School, and help transform the community it serves. Thank you.
Joe Rubin, Tamarin Austin, Allison Anderson, Joel Henry, and Javon Howard.
Board, Joe Rubin, proud father of a
freshman at McClatchy High School. And there are great things happening at McClatchy, incredible arts, incredible academics. But I think, without going through all the issues, there is a crisis of confidence at the school. And I just want to say that it's very concerning when you have 80% of teachers who don't have confidence in the administration. And what we're really missing here is, that it's just causing, just a lack of participation and a lack of, when kids can walk into school, the superintendent, and their heads are held high and they feel pride in the school and teachers feel pride in the school, magical things happen. And when they don't, we're losing that opportunity. I know you have a difficult job to do, but we're really asking for your leadership here.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Tamara Austin. My son was CK McClatchy's valedictorian last year. My daughter's a freshman there this year. My kids' love for CKM, their positive experience, their success is tied directly to the competence and passion of their teachers. While the students of the school are the lifeblood, the teachers are the heart. Many people have spoken to this board and identified specific and numerous problems with the administration. I'm not here to repeat them, but want to join in my support of the teachers who have come to you and ask this board to take action to ensure that the future students of CKM benefit from a high caliber group of teachers and a competent administration that supports its teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, if I jump in, I could get these 9 seconds. Oh, no, I can't. Right. I'm Allison Anderson. I have one child at CKM now. I have another that will be coming next year. We thought that my daughter at CKM was going to be in HIS, but the district determined that she was categorically ineligible. So we are flying free solo at McClatchy right now. We've had some difficult experiences. She had 4 Spanish teachers last year. She and her peers, who also didn't really have a teacher last year, they're struggling with Spanish 2. That jeopardizes them going into Spanish 3. That's going to narrow their options for college, and that's a shame. That is really not right. And so what I really urge you to do as board members is to get transactional. You've got some good staff. You've got some really good teachers at McClatchy. They need your support. They don't need grand gestures. They don't need data charts. They need support from you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Jewel Hendry. I am the parent of a student that's a senior this year. Her name is Zori Coleman. For the record, she was accepted to Prairie View A&M in Texas, HBCU. One of the reasons why I believe my daughter chose to go to the school because of the racial division at McClatchy High School. Let me just tell you my personal experience that I have at McClatchy. I've been on the school site council, I've been to the PTA meetings, and all I've heard about is the HIS program. They don't care about any of the other kids other than the HIS kids. So we won't go about anything into that. So I'm tired of the keyboard bullies that I'm experiencing. I see the secret emails, the Facebook things that they have going on, and they talk about how Mr. Lambert is not a participant person at the games. He is at the games. My daughter's a cheerleader and also is in the Criminal Justice Academy at CK McClatchy. So you talk about things like he's not participating in watching the games because he's on the phone.
We're combined. Okay, add additional minute, please.
So they're talking about how he's not participating at the games. Just simple thing. They nitpick constantly. I really personally feel I'm 50 years old as of this last month, and I have experienced racism. I have seen a lot of it, and I have seen a lot of it at this school with a lot of his parents that are here. Now, granted, not all of them are one race, what have you, but I have seen a lot of things. They blatantly disrespect him in meetings to the point where I have to say that, do not disrespect him. When you guys were at a meeting, I was at another meeting, and they were disrespecting you guys, just don't want to hear anything what you're saying, because they're like, we'll write a letter, they'll send a text, an email on Facebook, because they are, to me, I feel like they're very much bullies. So what I'm going to experience when I go out here, I have no idea. But I tell you what, I'm all about getting my daughter education. I speak for the Latino kids, for the Hmong kids, Laotian kids, Hispanic kids, because guess what? No one wants to show up to all these meetings.
Thank you.
Bonnie Holmes, Joyce Brown, Jose Verdin, Tracy Mitchell, and Lanicia Colbert.
Good evening, I'm Bonnie Holmes Jen. I'm a proud mom of 2 kids who graduated from CK McClatchy High School, both in the HISP program, 2017 and 2019. And I want to say that HISP was an amazing, enriching, profound experience that changed their lives. I'm here to ask you to bring new leadership to CK McClatchy to help build a college culture at CK McClatchy and help students to feel excited and motivated about their future. I've been a parent volunteer with the Parent College Committee at CK McClatchy since 2017 after going through a very intense experience of college admissions. I've been working on building that college culture, organizing college activities, supporting the College and Career Center, helping students, all students, understand all their options. And what I can say is that we need a strong partnership at CK McClatchy to really make a difference and build this college culture. And unfortunately, we can't do this without a principal who's a strong leader, who has the trust of everyone in the community, who is personally engaged, has high expectations, and involved every day in the campus. So we need
Thank
your
you.
help. Please give CKM a new start.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Brown. I'm a community advocate, BSU advisor for Northern Region community, and a retiree from the Elk Grove, Sacramento Unified School District. And I do a lot at Elk Grove, so that's why it was confusing. I'm here standing up for Peter Lambert because I have watched things grow at McClatchy, and I am so impressed with the employment that he has there, the diversity that he has on that campus, how he communicates with the students, how he communicates with parents and the staff. The lynching that I've heard tonight, that I'm hearing of against him, instead of hearing all that, because you can't prove anything, if you would come to McClatchy, spend some time there and see what's going on for yourself. You hear this rhetoric all the time, what's going on with people at McClatchy or any other school. Come by and spend some time and see what's going on yourself, and you'll know what to believe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Tracy Mitchell. I'm one of the school counselors at McClatchy High School. One of your board members is my counselee, as well as some of the parents that spoke. I'm their counselor as well. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Lambert. It's sad as a former McClatchy High School student to hear all the negativity that's directed at our school. I have a lot of pride for McClatchy High School. And it seems like that no one wants to work until they see Mr. Lambert gone. And the issue isn't Mr. Lambert. The issue is the community. And one of the individuals said that McClatchy serves the community. Well, which community are you referring to? Because I'm from CV Circle, and that's part of the community too. So I just hope that the board would understand if we lose Mr. Lambert, we're going to lose the leadership that they think is not there. There hasn't been a person who's been in the position that Mr. Lambert's been in, under the scrutiny that he's been in. I've seen no principal feel what he's felt. So I just hope you guys do the right thing.
Good evening, board. My name is Jose Verdin. I'm a former employee at CK McClatchy and a teacher now at another district. Lack of collaboration by staff and also the inability to accept that our school needs a different approach to the shift of demographic is the problem at McClatchy. I'm here to support Principal Lambert. As a parent advisor, as a former parent advisor, I hated the constant attack by my colleagues, especially the teachers, that I only work with the Hispanic students and families. I was accused of favoring my ethnic group by many colleagues. I knew after my first year there was going to be a challenge challenging to address the diversity of our campus. I was disgusted by the amount of students that felt unwelcome in the HIS program. Yes, I favor a certain group, the struggling student. Those students that cried in my office because the HIS program was unwelcoming. In my 5 years at CK McClatchy, Principal Lambert was the best supporter and the only reason why I stayed until I got laid off last year. I was able to help a lot of students graduate after having issues with truancies and behavior issues regardless of race. I am proud that I have not restored the roar, but I rebuild and restructure the roar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lanicia Cobelt. I am the new assistant principal at McClatchy. I've only been at McClatchy for 2 months. I came in on the 6th of January, and I came in with high hopes and a lot of excitement. What I found was Mr. Lambert on the steps every morning, greeting the students, walking through the hallways, saying hi, and really on all of us, the admin team, the campus monitors, the maintenance crew. We meet every single day, and every single day in that meeting, he is making sure that every little thing is done. From the smallest little thing of water dripping in the bathroom. On the other side, I've tried to be open-minded to hear the complaints. And what I have found, and my time is going to run out, is that they're unfounded. I myself was disrespected by his teacher at my first meeting.
Thank you.
So I am here to just say, I hope you guys come to the school and see for yourselves.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Pedro Garibay. I am one of the assistant principals of McClatchy High School. I came up here to comment on one of the presenters that came up to talk about, Mr. Lambert said during orientation about getting D's okay. Mr. Lambert did not say that. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other public comments at this time?
No, we have no more public comment.
Oh. And did you submit a public comment card? No, I did not. Okay. If you can just grab one and hand it, please.
You want me to fill it out first?
Put your name on it, please.
Thank you.
And just for the rest of the evening, for public comment, you'll need to submit your comment prior to the item on the agenda.
Okay. We have Melissa Holland.
Hi, I just want to quickly address the board. I actually don't have anything prepared to say, but when I hear about unfounded concerns, my daughter didn't have a Spanish teacher until the second half of last semester. That put her greatly behind. I had to resource Spanish resources on my own, and to be able to provide her with that level of instruction. Many families weren't able to do that, and I know for a fact that when the final happened a few weeks back, that many students struggled greatly, and that's because there was no Spanish teacher. I know you're considering another round of cuts through at Sac City, perhaps at CKM as well, but I think this is directly related to both the cuts but also the leadership at CKM.
Thank you.
Lauren Jordan.
I'll be quick. I also didn't have anything planned, but when I hear the parents talk about the subs, and I also work at McClatchy, some of that is true, but I attended the meeting that was held in the library a couple months ago, and it's my understanding that the district/HR kind of took responsibility for that, kind of basically apologized for it, and I keep hearing people blame Mr. Lambert, Mr. Lambert, Mr. Lambert, and I don't know if everybody attended that meeting, but that wasn't what I took away. So leadership is one thing, but he's only one person. So he's following policies, procedures, and it is what it is. It shouldn't all be placed on his lap.
Thank you. So we have no other public, oh, we do?
We have one last public comment, Vanessa Taylor.
Hello, Ms. Taylor.
Hello, I'll be real quick. Just as a former substitute, and now I just got hired at CK McClatchy, and not necessarily speaking on behalf of Mr. Lambert, but just as a sub and just kind of hearing everybody's comments, you guys have to understand it's not always easy to just hire teachers. That's not necessarily how it works. So the complaint is that Mr. Lambert isn't hiring teachers. Mr. Lambert is trying to hire teachers, but you have to find teachers. Like, it's very hard to find math teachers. It's very hard to find science teachers. It's very hard to find Spanish teachers. So it's not that Mr. Lambert isn't hiring teachers. He very much wants to fill those positions, but there have to be people available in those positions for him to hire. So he's not intentionally leaving vacancies. There's just not always necessarily someone available. And there are young people like myself back in the day who needed jobs, who are very capable subs, and we fill those positions until someone who just got out of school or who just came somewhere who are in those positions until Mr. Lambert can find someone. So just keep those in mind.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we appreciate all the public commenters this evening. It is not common for the board to address public comment. This is not the forum to do it, but we appreciate you coming out and making your voices heard. And I would just say, as people exit into the hall, though you have differing viewpoints, we are all part of one community, and I hope you treat each other with compassion and care, because you will be continuing to be part of the same community. Item 8.0, Employee Organizational Reports. Item 8.1, Organizational Reports, the first of which will be conducted this evening by SCTA. If I can ask everyone to please exit the boardroom and take your conversations outside so that we can hear our first public commenter for our organizational reports. They were all gone. Okay. We have up to 15 minutes for 3 topics submitted by David Fisher. Please proceed.
Good evening. My name is David Fisher, president of the Sacramento City Teachers Association.
Okay.
So, oftentimes we talk about wrong numbers equal bad decisions. I think it's equally true to say no numbers can equal bad decisions. Almost exactly 1 year ago, actually March 17th, 2019, you made the decision to lay off 175 credentialed teachers and about 200 classified staff. You spent a total of 7 minutes discussing the decision to fire nearly 400 staff. To make matters worse, and as SCTA said at the time, the layoffs were unnecessary, as you hear from the constant meetings about the vacancies. The projected enrollment numbers were wrong. The budget numbers were wrong. And of course, the decision turned out to be wrong. Despite oversight from Dave Gordon and SCOE, you forgot to count 5 schools. More importantly, after the superintendent notified SCOE in writing that a mistake had occurred, he kept that information from the public. And you, the elected leaders of the district, proceeded with the layoffs. Not one of you thought to question a projected enrollment figure that estimated a decline in enrollment between 5 and 10 times higher than any single year in the previous 10 years. None of you asked questions about how the schools would be affected. None of you asked for an impact statement. And none of you expressed any remorse or accepted any responsibility when the district subsequently recalled almost every certificated teacher on the layoff list, with the exception of child development, which I'll return to in a minute. And as you know, by the time you tried to recall the teachers, many had already left for other districts and decided not to return, which exacerbated the vacancy problem. Turns out the budget numbers were also wrong. As the recently released audited financial statement demonstrates, the district projected a budget of $35 million in its original budget, $24.8 million in its second interim, but ended the year breaking almost even with a deficit of just $171,000. That's a difference of $35 million, $779,052. So here we are 1 year later, without being presented any enrollment data whatsoever. You've already approved the first step in eliminating an additional 82 certificated positions. In fact, the only tangible piece of information provided by the district staff was that enrollment was expected to drop by around 200 students. A drop that, if happened, would warrant the reduction of approximately 6 or 7 teachers, not 82. Again, you hear meeting after meeting about the vacancies. Got to have some common sense here, and you got to have some data. Again, not one of you demanded enrollment numbers before you voted. Not one of you asked for an impact study of the effect of eliminating 82 additional positions in the midst of a national teacher shortage, nonetheless. And when attrition alone would account for the 82 positions easily. You also voted to eliminate the parent participation in preschool, which you heard a lot about, with no data and no impact statement. And contrary to Dave Gordon's disingenuous response about the need to contain costs, staffing's determined by student need. That's codified in our contract and by ed code. Students have to have teachers. They have to take classes to graduate. Despite our repeated requests, the district still has not been able to provide the staffing and enrollment figures by grade and by school that would allow us to validate its numbers. Inadvertently, we were given a portion of some enrollment figures that would allow us to do this validation. And this is the K through 6 projections. From what we see here in this document that I'm sharing with you right now and you have in front of you, it looks like rather than firing teachers, the district should be adding staff at least at the elementary school level. So, Mike, in the first column, that is the current enrollment, at least as of October. And as you go across, you can see the projected enrollment by grade level, which is what you should have seen before you voted to fire everyone. As you move down, you can see the projected staffing ratios. And then sometimes you have to add teachers because of special ed or PE prep or something. And then when you move to the last column, you will see that there's either a blank or a -1 or +1 or +2. That is the school by school, grade by grade analysis. At the bottom of it, these projections show you need to add 8 teachers, at least at K through 6. This is the kind of information you should have demanded from every level, from every school, before making the decision you made. How is it possible that you, as an elected school board member, would blindly move forward on making such a disastrous decision without demanding accountability from the district staff before voting to eliminate all these additional positions? Of course, once again, in the middle of a giant teaching shortage. It seems like with the same blind faith that the district staff has led this board, including a professor of child development on this board, to vote to save less than $300,000 in the district's general fund by cutting over $3 million in child development services. That's money that doesn't come. Thank you. That's money that doesn't come in from the state. So you're saving $300,000, and you're affecting the most vulnerable students. 300 preschool spots will be eliminated, or have been eliminated. Where is the impact statement on that? By the way, my own children went through Miss Anita's class. Alejandro, they were English language learners. It helped them greatly. I don't have to go on and about that, how much love that program is. But here we are again, and you're proposing to further cut the parent participation program because you put a higher priority, evidently, on building the district reserve fund than on upholding your ethical duty to put children ahead of your own interests. A little bit of good news. After more than 18 months of trying, we finally have an agreement from the district representatives to sit down with us and discuss the budget situation. We can assure you that, unlike this board, we have been and we will continue to be demanding a full justification, transparent accounting, and complete and accurate documentation of any budget assumption or assertion made by the district and SCOE before we make any decision. You should too. Finally, as part of a PRA request, we request a correspondence between the district and Pivot/PACE, the quasi-academic research that published a highly flawed district-centric analysis of district finances. One notable document that was not included in the report was the district's vision of equity, access, and social justice. After we settled our contract in November 2017, we just watched the video the other day, it was really exciting, lots of enthusiasm. We thought that we actually did share the common vision of equity, access, and social justice. Here in Sacramento, that vision included as part of our collective bargaining agreement that the district still refuses to implement. Through events of the last 2 years, we have come to understand that we have a different understanding of what those words even mean, equity, access, and social justice. And the document obtained through the PRA makes it clear. As far as we knew, the district's vision had never been debated, hasn't been distilled, never discussed in public, and as you can see from the email trail behind that, oh, you don't have that, never mind. But as you could see if you read the email behind it, it appears to be a result of Iris Taylor and Vincent Harris brainstorming for an afternoon to come up with a wish list. But what's missing on the district's vision? No lower class sizes, no more school nurses, which you think we could use right now, no more school psychologists, no more librarians, no extra counselors, no intervention programs, nothing about restorative practices, nothing about restoring and expanding child development, and nothing about improving special education. So what is the highest priority for the district? This is the big vision of the district. $20 million, increasing its reserve and reducing its district's retiree health liabilities 30 years from now. Way down the list is doubling down the amount of funding school sites get for instructional classroom supplies from a paltry $2.5 million to $5 million. The limitations of this vision are set in bold relief by the recent memo put out by the district in relationship to the unfortunate events around the coronavirus, which referenced the instruction in hand washing that will be provided by school nurses. On Tuesday, when we were together for bargaining, a team member read the email, and almost everyone in the room reacted, "What school nurse?" As the Washington Post reported today, while the recommended student-to-nurse ratio in schools is 750 to 1, Sac City, the number is 3,300 to 1. As one nurse commented to me today after concerns about coronavirus being more acute at an elementary level, not only do we not have enough school nurses, in some schools we don't even have soap to fill the soap dispensers. How are we supposed to teach hand washing without soap? At the end of the day, isn't ensuring that all students have a credentialed teachers in the classroom a higher priority than redirecting limited district resources for retiree health costs 30 years from now? Shouldn't we make sure that our soap dispensers are filled before we worry about growing our reserve fund? We can do better than this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Our next organizational report will be from SEIU. Do we have a representative here tonight? From TCS? From Teamsters? From UPE? No? Okay, moving on to item 8.2, District Parent Advisory Committees. The first is the Community Advisory Committee. Do we have a CAC representative here tonight? Oh, that's very unusual. We do not. Do we have a representative from the District English Learner Advisory Committee?
You did say ELAC, right?
DLAC.
Oh,
DLAC.
for ELAC, yeah. Listen, I've been coming, good afternoon, Superintendent and Board. I've been coming to these DLAC meetings for a few years now. And what I notice, it's the same schools that keep coming to these meetings, same people, same schools. Yet we have something like, I believe, 40-something elementary schools, 67 schools in total. But I find that very few elementary schools have ELAC going on. I don't know who's accountable to this or who's supposed to be checking that schools have meetings, but every time I come to these DEC meetings, there's only 15, 17 schools that show up. And I believe there's more than that. There's mandated to have these meetings. So I was just asking the question, is anybody accountable for this taking place? Thank you.
Thank you. And so just for the record, you are a participant of DLAC, but not representing DLAC this evening. Okay, thank you. The Local Control Accountability Plan and Parent Advisory Committee.
Good evening, President Ryan, Superintendent Aguilar, and Board. Frank DeYoung, LCAP Committee member. I'll give you an update on where we are. In our last meeting, we introduced a new member, Angie Sutherland. We were very happy to have her. She's a returnee, actually. She was part of the original LCAP Committee. We spent our meeting going over data sources, some of them out of the box, so that we could get some key learning about our schools that we can then use to inform the LCAP development. We were provided a brief overview of the recent budget presentation and the governor's proposed first interim recovery plan and the state audit report. We reviewed the 2019-20 LCAP budget summary with a focus on supplemental and contribution and grant funding. And we also were given a packet which indicates by school site the allocations for LCFF and Title I, so that we could look at that. And it gives us a better understanding of the district and how it lays out. We began to discuss goal development. We reviewed types of LCAP goals outlined in the new template around focus, broad, and maintenance, and also looking at MTSS. And we began the discussions of doing priorities and existing LCAP goals and how they may fit under the new framework. And we recommended inclusion of the MTSS implementation as our focus goal, and recommended the development of a new LCAP goals that align to our key priorities, resulting in the breaking down of silos between academic and cultural and climate goals that are more traditional in nature. An emphasis on key priorities such as equity and opportunity, training tools, awareness, coherence, and consistency. And we were going about identifying new steps to complete input and revision online prior to our next meeting, which will be March 20th at 6 o'clock in the Washington room. And so we actually had a template that we could use on Google to input our goals and things that we would like to see, so that we would have them before the next meeting so that we could sit down and discuss them, with our goal being that we will be more proactive this year and actually getting this stuff to the superintendent and the board as part of the development, instead of giving our recommendations and after the fact. So we're hoping this will make us more of a functional group and feeling more of a part of what we're doing. And so that's what I got. And I got 19 seconds left. Whew, I did pretty good.
Thank you for your service, Frank.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item 8.3, Superintendents Report.
Thank you, President Ryan, and thank you for being here, everyone. I know that the audience got much smaller, but I do want to start my report by reassuring everyone that the well-being, health, and safety of our students is a top priority for us here at Sac City Unified. And I know that there are a lot of nervous parents and staff and students related to the coronavirus. So I do want to just spend a couple of minutes talking about what we're doing with this developing situation. And first and foremost, I want to make sure that everybody understands that this is a well-coordinated effort between the district, Sac County Public Health, and the Sacramento County Office of Education, who's been coordinating responses and being a link to the Sacramento County Public Health. We have had conference calls as superintendents across Sacramento County, and the County Office of Ed has played an integral role in making sure that they're coordinating with the Sac County Public Health. We also have dedicated a web page to coronavirus that the public can find at scusd.edu/COVID-19. Again, scusd.edu/COVID-19. And let me just tell you a little bit of what we are doing right now and our understanding working with Sac County Public Health and SCOE. The first one is that as early as this afternoon, we were again informed that any school closures would be at the direction of the County Public Health Department, certainly in consultation with school districts. But this is a communicable disease, and as such, is very different than, say, the wildfire situation from last year. So I want to make that very clear to our community. Our communication staff has done everything that they can to make sure that we are updating our community with information through social media channels and our website as well. Our operations department is taking several steps to make sure that our schools are clean and safe. We are making sure that we have adequate supplies at each of our school sites. We've ordered more facial tissues and are waiting for that, as well as district-approved disinfectant cleaner. I know that one of our public commenters talked about why we cannot use Lysol, but there are other acceptable cleaners that we can use as well. We also have begun a process of making sure that we have a dedicated team that has been assigned to deep clean schools on a nightly basis. And again, working with the Sac County Public Health, are monitoring things like attendance, absences. There are many, many protocols in which the County Public Health Department will also inform us of any other measures that we have to take, and we have begun to do that as well. I also want to mention that our Nutrition Services Department, I mean, this is just a very cross-departmental effort, has a plan in place should there be school closures that are necessary to make sure that we have grab-and-go meals that are made available to our students at certain central locations throughout the district as well. Again, we understand that many of you are very worried, but please know that we will continue to communicate as much as possible. Again, very coordinated through the County Office of Ed as well as through the Sacramento County Public Health Department. Also want to just talk on another topic. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit Luther Burbank High School. And one of our speakers earlier reminded me she was actually in one of the classrooms where I tried my best to motivate our students to take the SAT as seriously as possible. This is the third year that we have paid for all juniors to take the SAT for free. We had about 2,800 juniors take the SAT. 3 years ago when we started this effort, believe it or not, just 24% of our juniors had an SAT on file. Last year, that number increased to 87%. This is an investment of about $112,000 from our budget, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. And with your permission, President Ryan, I know that my time is up, but I did want to just mention a few and make a few comments about the Parent Participation Preschool Program. I know all of our parents and students have left, but I did want to thank all of the individuals that came tonight to speak to the board. I did have the opportunity to read to the students on Monday at the adult school and then asked Dr. Gilmore, who's in the audience, to make available one of the classrooms to then speak to the parents, and about 25, 30 parents were there, and they all expressed how valuable this program is. They used words like community, family, you heard it today, and it was a reminder for me as your superintendent of how many programs we have in Sac City that we need to continue to celebrate. We will continue to celebrate those unique programs throughout Sac City Unified. Another public commenter spoke about small high schools. We have very specialized high schools. We have high schools with 200 students that work very well for many of our students and their families. But I think that we have to come to terms with the fact that we have a budget structure that is not going to allow us to continue to celebrate the variety and number of unique programs that we operate in Sac City Unified School District. My commitment is to make sure that we can continue to be in a place where we can celebrate and treat those programs for what they are today. They are an attraction for many of our students and families. We have individuals that come from outside of our district because of the unique nature and features of many of those programs. But the reality is we have a budget structure in which we have programs like these where the revenues are smaller than the actual expenditures. This is a program that we are going to fight and try to figure out creative ways in which we can continue to sustain them. But the reality is we can no longer continue to take resources, particularly in this case, last year we had to use about $360,000 from our supplemental and concentration funds. These are not funds that we will continue to be able to use for these types of programs that are requiring greater investments than the revenues that they bring in. Again, if the parents were here, I would say what I said to them on Monday. We will work to come up with creative ways, assess every single idea that's out there to make sure that we can continue to celebrate these types of programs. So with that, I will yield back to you, President Ryan.
Thank you, Superintendent Aguilar. Item 8.4, President's Report. So tonight I want to speak to two individuals who are really inspiring my comments. The first of which is Rich Vasquez, who has been a tireless parent volunteer who has demanded board meeting after board meeting that his daughters have the same opportunities in a high poverty area in Sacramento that their peers in well-resourced areas have. And the second is really Board Member Mai Vang, who I had the opportunity to hear on the radio recently and inspired me with a quote that we have talked about quite frequently in the district of late, which is the idea that the system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. A Deming quote, the system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. And what this speaks to is this idea that when we are failing segments of students throughout Sacramento City Unified, we have built a system that has allowed the conditions for failure, has allowed pockets of excellence to serve some students and some adults very well, and often at the expense of our most vulnerable students. And I want to share that because alongside that conversation, someone said that what happens in systems like Sac City Unified is the status quo is perpetuated when we're afraid to make the difficult decisions that actually correct the system for all kids. So right now, what do we have going on? At a national level, we're seeing individuals sow seeds of unrest and division, and we're seeing at a local level ugliness and bad behavior and a focus not on building community, but on ripping communities apart. I say all of that because we have the tools we need to change that dynamic. We know that if we focus on student achievement, if we make difficult decisions, if we recognize that fixing the structural budget challenges is not an indictment on teachers and educators we love, rather it's a commitment to students who we have not been able to invest in because we have lacked the courage to do what we need to serve the students we have today and to serve the students we have tomorrow. I was hopeful when individuals said that the audit would be a roadmap for the difficult budget decisions that we would have to make. And when the audit didn't come out as individuals would have hoped, it was dismissed. Dismissed as just another in a long line of reports that validated since 2003 there had been real problems with the budget, but we should ignore it. We should ignore it and go back to business as usual and just accept that some kids will be failed in this district. Well, I think we're hearing from community and parents that they will not accept that any longer. I, as a board member, one of 7, am not here week after week, day after day to accept those conditions. Because what we heard tonight is that we have to lead. And for the first time in the board's history, we have a board majority of parents. We have a board member who has 15 siblings. The stakes are too high to fail another generation of kids. And so what I say is instead of just saying that we are going to accept that we're not on the same team, that we're divided, that we cannot upend a system that has failed students, let's say instead that all students can learn, that everything we do will be rooted in that belief, and that we are going to lean into the hard work of collaboration, because anything less would be a disservice to our kids, the very kids we are here to serve. Finally, I want to invite individuals to the Sacramento City Unified School District African American Advisory Board. You know, a year and a half ago, I penned an op-ed lamenting the suspension rates and what that meant for our African American youth. I also asked for an end to willful defiance as a catch-all for suspension expulsion. We supported statewide policy, and we're now seeing that enacted. We had an African American Achievement Task Force that brought forth the recommendation that they become an advisory board that lives in the system and provides recommendations to better serve our Black and Brown students. And we'll have 2 information sessions, one on March 16th at Fruit Ridge Collaborative. We hope you'll be a part of that. And one on March 24th at Wilsey Wood Middle School from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Please be partners on this journey. We need you. We will only right this system if we do this together. Thank you. Item 8.5, Student Board Member Report.
Thank you, President Ryan. A lot of stuff here. Okay. A couple weeks ago, I organized a student forum at Kennedy High School with member Wu. And it actually took place before the last board meeting, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it, so I wanted to kind of talk about what was discussed. The forum was really well attended. We had over 60 students there, and we discussed a lot of notable issues, and I want to give a couple highlights from that forum. The first significant takeaway was a lack of counselor engagement with students. Many students either did not know who their counselor was or had never met their counselor. And the recommendation is to implement yearly counselor check-ins to help students stay on track. And in addition, students noted that they often are unaware of the district and Kennedy resources provided for students. So with reinforced communication with counselors, students may take better use of the student resources available. Secondly, in connection with the topic that was brought up during the West Campus Student Forum, students at Kennedy also noted the lack of information about student rights. The ACLU provides robust information on student rights, but the issue is that many students don't know to look for that information. The recommendation is to post applicable student rights info on the SUSD website and or a link to the ACLU page on student rights, and in addition, add the student rights link to all district student handbooks. I want to also address the coronavirus tonight. I know that we're keeping close watch with developments from the CDC and the Sac County Public Health, but as of now, the main message students have been hearing is to wash your hands. And while this advice is definitely well-intentioned, a student from Kennedy noted that some bathrooms do not have working soap dispensers, and until this week, many boys' restrooms at McClatchy had dysfunctional sinks. In addition, some Rosemont and Kennedy students informed me of bathroom locking during school hours as a drug preventative measure that makes restrooms largely inaccessible. It's really important that restrooms be easily accessible, especially at this time, and I think we need to establish a better way to deal with drug use in schools instead of just locking restrooms for all students. Lastly, students at Kennedy High School's forum spoke about the lack of diversity in the PACE program, that unfortunately the diversity within the school is not represented in the specialty programs or specialty program or AP classes. And at McClatchy, we face the same predicament. It's my understanding that specialty programs are prohibited from visiting and advertising to middle schools. The HIS program at McClatchy used to have scheduled student visits with middle schools, but since the rule was established, students have not been able to actively outreach. What ends up happening is that specialty programs like PACE and HISP receive the vast majority of their applications from students who've heard of the program by word of mouth or who come from schools that frequently send students to those programs. These programs are not keeping out minority students actively. They're not intentionally diminishing racial diversity. They simply cannot effectively reach out. The inability to proactively outreach to middle schools and minority student populations inhibits the ability to foster diverse environments and student bodies within these programs. At the Kennedy Forum, one student told me that she didn't even know that the PACE program existed when she enrolled in Kennedy High School. Many students don't know about the options when they enter high school, which perpetuates the lack of diversity in PACE and in advanced placement classes. The recommendation is to allow specialty programs to conduct school visits and middle school outreach like they used to. I've forwarded all my forum notes to the LCAP committee for review and consideration and plan to personally follow up on the issues presented by students. And I'll do the same for the upcoming forums. I have a Rosemont forum scheduled for tomorrow at 3:15 with Member Pritchett and a Burbank forum set for the following Friday with Member Vang. And both forums are open to all SUSU students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Olson. And will you please also forward your notes from the forums to the board? Thank you, we appreciate it. Item 8.6, information sharing by board members. Do we have any board members who will be sharing tonight? Board Member Pritchett?
Thank you, President Ryan. With many votes still to be counted and it still hasn't been certified, it looks like Measure H is good. So we still have a road to go, so we can't celebrate until it's been certified. But I wanted to thank my committee members, Member Morosky, Member Garcia, Nathaniel Browning, and Cecile Nunley, who's not here tonight. I know you're listening, so we miss you. But I did want to thank everyone for all their hard work and our board for your guys' support for this. And a big thank you to our community and our supporters, the people that went out and walked with us or put up signs in their yards. When this is final, this is a big win for our students. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Board Member Pritchett. Do we have any other board member comments? Looks like we do not. Item 9.0, Board Workshop, Strategic Plan, and Other Initiatives. 9.1, approving grades 6 through 12th, Science Curriculum, Instruction Material Adoption. This is an action item that will be presented by Christine Beta, Matt Turkey, and Aaron Pecho.
Good evening, Board President Ryan, Superintendent Aguilar, and members of the board. My name is Matt Turkey, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, and I am joined today by our District Science Coordinator, Aaron Pecho, our District Science team here, Jana Campwell and Matt Coleman, and teacher Susan Rupert from Hiram Johnson High School. So in 2016, the California Science Framework came out, and that's a framework which basically provides guidance to districts on how to support the necessary pedagogical shifts to reach the rigor of the next generation science standards. It's basically the science standards are the what, and the framework is the how. Okay, so that came out in 2016. In 2018, the state completed its review of instructional materials in K-8. It's worth noting that the state doesn't actually recommend instructional materials for high school, only for K-8. Okay, so that was in November 2018. We started our process to adopt instructional materials in science in January 2019, and we're coming to the culmination of that tonight for grades 6 through 12. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to our science coordinator, Aaron Pecho, who will take you through the details of the adoption process.
Thanks, Matt. Good evening. My name is Aaron Pecho, and I'm the science coordinator for the district. I began my tenure in Sac City Unified as a science teacher. I've taught middle and high school science at 2 sites in the district, Hiram Johnson High School and the School of Engineering and Sciences. Although there are plenty of times when I miss the classroom, I am proud to share the work that could support thousands of our students in rich and rigorous science learning. This journey began in the spring with 32 teacher reviewers that participated in a curriculum screening for 6 through 12 science materials. In the 6-8 grade span, reviewing teachers participated in a review of 15 instructional programs over 2 full days, and high school teachers participated in a review of 5 instructional programs over several evenings. The goal of our work in the spring of 2019 was to identify 5 programs per grade level and content area to go through a deeper screen in the summer of 2019. After publisher presentations, reviewers collaboratively scored each program using standardized measures and our district lens to ultimately recommend 5 programs per grade level and content area to screen deeply in the summer. In the summer of 2019, Reviewing teachers continued their work, taking a full day to look at one instructional program across 4 provided rubrics guided by the CANGSS time process, the toolkit for instructional materials evaluation provided 2 LEAs from WestEd K-12 Alliance and the California Science Project. The reviewing teachers considered all aspects of an instructional program, like standards alignment, support for diverse learners, and support to implement the instructional shifts called out in the California Science Framework. At the end of the week, the reviewers on the committee recommended 2 programs from those 5 per grade span or content area to move forward to an instructional pilot beginning in the fall of 2019. The screening process involved 32 teachers across 17 school sites in our district. As you can see here, our robust involvement is due to the multiple outreach efforts to involve as many of our teachers as possible in the process. We are happy that we received involvement from schools like Hubert Bancroft, James Marshall, Harkness, Sequoia, Ethel I. Baker, Sutterville Elementary, California Middle School, Fern Bacon Middle School, Wilsey Wood Middle School, Sam Brandon Middle School, Kit Carson, West Campus High School, Luther Burbank High School, John F. Kennedy High School, Hiram Johnson High School, McClatchy High School, and Health Professions. After our committee's initial review, the next phase in the process began. An instructional pilot was essential to evaluate a program's effectiveness on the ground level. Our committee would pilot one instructional unit over 8 weeks for each program, guided by the CANGSS time process, which included collaborative analysis of student work and collaborative evaluation of the instructional program across standardized rubrics. We continued our efforts to inform all impacted teachers in the spring and in early August so they can be involved in our pilot of instructional materials. Due to our outreach efforts, we were able to secure broad representation of 68 teachers across 36 school sites. Although not required, a third of our pilot teachers participated in the entire process, curriculum screening and pilot. In addition to robust representation of the teachers and schools in our district, we strive to elicit comprehensive feedback on instructional materials from members of our community. Our community review began in November with the instructional units being available online for review. Our community input efforts continued with a physical review of instructional materials beginning December 1st. The review of instructional materials ended on February 3rd. We utilized multiple strategies to build awareness of our need for input, including posting on the district's eConnect and social media. We also sent flyers and email announcements to principals and teachers so they can inform their local community and parents to increase our reach and opportunity for input. In October 2019, my team and I presented at the Parent Information Exchange PI group and informed parents that attended of the methods to review instructional materials. Finally, we made announcements of our materials review to the following committees: the LCAP Parent Advisory Committee, DLAC, the Student Advisory Committee, the Community Advisory Committee, and the African American Achievement Task Force. We want to take an opportunity to share some of the feedback and data from our decision-making process regarding the instructional materials adoption. For all recommended materials, a significant majority of piloting teachers and students lean toward the recommended materials. The community feedback we received was helpful for our teachers to consider our community as they recommended materials for adoption. After a full year of intensive work in and out of the classroom, the committee recommends the following programs for district-wide adoption. In grades 6 through 8, Amplify Science by Amplify Education. In high school, in Biology with Earth, STEM Scopes, The Living Earth was recommended from Accelerate Learning. In Chemistry with Earth, Experience Chemistry by Pearson was recommended. And in Physics with Earth, STEM Scopes, Physics in the Universe by Accelerate Learning was recommended. It's important to recognize all of the end users of our adopted programs. I would like to take a few minutes to highlight some of the comments from our students and community. A biology student said, "I actually like learning about biology with STEM Scopes. It was actually interesting." An Amplify pilot teacher said, Amplify has some really exciting online components. The simulations are fun and thought-provoking. The articles are high quality for students to read, the lessons are engaging, and the experiments were enjoyable. A physics student reflected, the STEM Scopes program was easier for me to learn and understand with all the activities, experiments, and projects we've been doing. A chemistry student reflected, the Pearson book thoroughly explains the concepts. It's easy to understand and the visualizations help a lot. And finally, the parent of an 8th grade student reflected, my daughter loves science and engineering, so this Amplify is an amazing approach for any school-age child, especially middle school and high school. I would now like to hand it over to our teachers to talk about the programmatic highlights of each of our recommended programs. We'll start with Matt Coleman, who will talk about Amplify Science.
Thank you, Aaron. Hearing from students and teachers and community members is really valuable and important and powerful. My name is Matt Coleman. I'm the elementary science training specialist here at the district. And I've had the privilege to work really closely with the 6th grade team through this process. I wanted to talk just briefly about some of the highlights here. Amplify has a strong storyline with connected lessons that increase in rigor throughout the unit. This means that lessons build upon each other seamlessly. And the cognitive load impressed upon each student increases throughout each lesson. Second, Amplify has built-in simulations that model relevant phenomena and incorporate 21st century skills. Amplify has these great proprietary simulations that students use multiple times through a chapter in a unit, so they go back to it really often. There are lessons designed for students to revisit these simulations and build greater understanding and capacity of a phenomenon that they might not be able to visualize otherwise. Bullet points 1 and 2 really lead into that third one. Amplify provides multiple opportunities for students to develop their understanding of a specific concept. So there's a strong connection between lessons, multiple attempts to manipulate and gain understanding through simulations, and activities that support dynamic and various learning modalities. Fourth, the built-in automatic differentiation system that Amplify is designed for all learners. So it really supports every student. There are specific lessons that assess student learning. These formative assessments, when completing using the online workbook, are automatically graded and organized into groups. The very next lesson after this assessment is differentiated based on those results. So an activity is designed to level up all students to the same playing field. This automatic differentiation provides really powerful data to the teacher and is designed to support diverse learners. Lastly, one of the strengths specifically pointed out by the 6th grade team was the strong ELA and math connections. As we build our capacity to instruct in an NGSS-aligned classroom, these connections are relevant and important to all of our teachers, but especially in our elementary site. In each lesson, there are specific ELA and math connections tied to standards and extensions that support the science content. Thank you for listening, and I will now pass over Susan to speak about STEM Scopes.
Good evening. My name is Susan Rupert. I'm a science teacher at Hiram Johnson High School. Our entire department participated in this pilot across 3 subject areas. I piloted both biology and chemistry curriculums. First, speaking to STEM Scopes for biology with Earth and physics with Earth. The STEM Scopes curriculum provides storylines developed in the spirit of the NGSS framework, which helps to provide consistency across the curriculum. Lessons are presented using a 5E instructional model, which is very commonly used by science teachers. The lessons are adaptive and activities can be substituted for other high-quality experiences, which is really important to teachers like us that have been working within NGSS for a long time. The materials include viable differentiation strategies for diverse learners. Materials include various forms of assessments and item banks for CAS preparation, which is a very different test than what they used to take, so it's important to have those materials. And also STEM Scopes provides mission log and action plan lesson components. These give the students the why for what they're learning. It gives them some type of real world application that they're able to come back to at the end and solve a problem. All right, and then Pearson's Experience Chemistry program provides phenomena-based experiences, which are revisited after each lesson, giving students a chance to revisit and track their learning. Phenomena-based instruction is a central component to NGSS, and it is rooted in equity so that all students are working from the same phenomena so that they can all move forward and have a common language and common discussion. The assessment items were focused on application and problem solving versus memorization of facts, which is the shift in the assessment as well. So it's important to see that present in terms of the state assessment. The laboratory experiences, this is extremely unique, have differentiated options. Every lab has 4 options ranging from giving the students step-by-step procedural direction to accomplish the task and the learning, to providing the students with the problem and the materials, but letting them come up with their own procedure. And it's really useful depending on where your students are at, and then also how much movement you have in your students across the year, starting with giving the instruction and then letting them have more freedom as they acquire the lab skills. I'm going to pass it off to Matt Turkey.
Okay, so I'm going to be going over some of our next steps. As Matt Coleman said previously, our Amplify adoption within the 6 to 8 really relies very heavily on a lot of simulations. And so the students, when they're engaging in those, do need one-to-one devices so they can properly engage in those simulations. As such, as part of our budget, we've also budgeted in to provide Chrome carts for all science teachers in the middle school and to be shared at the 6th grade space as well. Another thing which we'll be doing is providing professional learning for leaders and teachers to build their capacity to effectively utilize the adopted instructional materials. This will start in the spring and then will continue on into the summer, into the fall, and then throughout the next year. We will also co-create new courses of study and curriculum maps with teachers to outline the expectations and use of the newly adopted instructional materials. All of the materials come with embedded curriculum assessments, and what we need to do now is really assess those curriculum assessments and then recommend which of those could we have, for example, as some district common assessments throughout the district within science. We also need to develop and provide workshops for parents and guardians so we can support school sites in providing information to our parents and guardians. And with that, that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turkey. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No, we don't have any public comments.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and take board member questions and comments. Looks like Ann has stepped away, so we'll set the clock in a moment. Our first board member question comes from board member Morowski.
Thank you, President Ryan, and thank you so much, team, for that explanation. It's happened to me a few times being up here learning about the exciting adoptions and innovative strategies we're using for teaching and learning now, that I want to go back to school and be a student in these classrooms and learn everything all over again. So I really appreciate it. It's really exciting. I had a question about molecular biology. This has been a topic of conversation at McClatchy. I know this is also offered at Kennedy as well. So I just wanted to sort of clarify with the new adoption, which I know is a different pathway, and now with new materials, can you speak to some of the nuances of that course of study and how this adoption will support or not the offering of that class?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Molecular biology is intended to be a substitute for our core biology class. As such, that class will utilize the core materials. When we co-create the course of study with the teachers that teach molecular biology, we will really rely heavily on their input as to how we can lens the instructional experiences in molecular bio to reflect the goals of the course while using the core materials. The idea isn't to create something that's so vastly different from our traditional and general biology experience, but provide students with some extensions and some elaborations of some of the content.
So just to clarify that, that means that the teachers will be able to use the new materials to teach that course, and then they will have to be adapted somehow to, like, can you give me an example of kind of what that
Yeah,
looks like?
so let's say, for example, unit on ecosystems. I anticipate the content remaining intact with some extensions for, they give it a molecular focus. So maybe they would go deeper into certain concepts or content because it's molecular biology. And the teachers would help give input as to what those experiences would look like.
And it was my understanding that the class, it's not just the molecular focus, but the kind of the way it's taught in the model-based reasoning, or that maybe it's been taught in a different way. So can you speak to that, how this curriculum will support that or needs to be adjusted?
Sure, and I think I can start by saying model-based reasoning isn't specific to any one course or content area. I think teachers would agree that model-based reasoning is important for all of science. And so we're hoping that the ways in which we saw molecular biology taught in those really high-quality classrooms spreads to other classrooms in our district, and it becomes more pervasive. So we want to encourage those teaching practices and encourage those that kind of rigorous teaching.
Wonderful, thank you.
Board Member Garcia.
Board Member Morawski, I know your kids are in maybe like second grade. I think once third grade starts, you'll have plenty of time to learn any subject along your children, so especially in the era of Common Core. But I did have some questions. The table you presented, the feedback on piloted materials, I was interested to get some additional insight in terms of student votes and community feedback. If you can just sort of paint a picture of what that looks like and sort of how that feedback is then considered relative to the teacher votes, because there's some differences, especially with the last point, the physics with earth science. I'm just trying to sort of wrap my head around how that whole process works.
Sure, thank you, and I can speak to that. So the pilot teacher votes was that first column was our final consensus meeting with involved pilot teachers, and those votes were informed by our other data points, including student votes and community feedback. So prior to bringing teachers together in February to debrief both curriculum options, we provided students an opportunity to vote and to weigh in on their experience and to give us input as to what they prefer. Our students are, me and my team learned, very insightful and very aware of their experience. And it was really powerful to see students weigh in, and teachers really appreciated that insight. And so the student vote comments you see are the students that participated weighing in on our our recommended material programs. For the community feedback, we asked a range of questions, gearing up the insight for things like diverse learning needs, representation of our diverse community. Also, just if you were a student and you were learning this stuff, how would this fare for you? Although we didn't get a large number of parents and community members giving feedback, we did find that most of the feedback that we received leaned toward the recommended program. And that also helped, again, our teacher committee make the decision of recommending materials more confidently.
Okay, well, very good, thank you. And I do have a couple more questions.
If I could just add as well,
Sure.
there's board policy which governs around how the decisions are made, which basically says that the decisions around curriculum materials will be made by a teacher committee, which is then informed by other pieces of data.
Yeah, I was just curious, but thank you. So there was another point that you made relative to, I think it's in the next steps slide, the technology needs. And I am, even as a parent, I notice how students, the homework they bring, a lot of it is very technology is necessary, right? Everything's technology based. So I'm just wondering what this means, not only for instruction in the classroom, but what does it mean for the student once they go home and maybe they don't have access to that technology? Sort of how do we factor all that in? So
one of the thankful features of all the programs is that they're all blended. meaning there's a mix and you can a reliance on both technology and the traditional paper type instruction. The reason Amplify Science informed such a large technology need was because of those online simulations that are used during instruction in the classroom. Let's say a student were to go home, there might be a reflection prompt or something for the kids to do at home, and if they have computer resources, they might be able to submit their assignment online. But there is a alternative paper for students that don't have those resources. I do hope to see a time in our district when we get to that point of having technology for all. But until that point, I'm happy to say that all the programs that we've recommended are all blended and are able to dance in both worlds for the time being.
And what's our digital divide? I mean, our students who don't have access to technology at home, is that something we know?
It's not
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't have that information.
Okay, so, and I think those were my 2 questions, so thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia. Board Member Ng Olson.
Thank you. I just had a quick question about sex ed, so how that fits into the curriculum that you've presented.
So our sexual health curriculum is separate from our core science adoption, although our sex ed curriculum is delivered by science teachers, particularly 7th grade teachers and 10th grade or biology teachers.
So it would be their job to integrate that curriculum or like follow that curriculum in addition to these guidelines?
So the sexual health curriculum in middle and high school are both about 2 weeks, give or take. And so they would isolate a 2-week period in their school year to deliver the curriculum. We don't provide any requirements as to when it's delivered. We know that some teachers deliver it early in the year. We know some teachers wait until spring.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I had a couple quick questions. First, I very much appreciate Board Member Garcia's comments and questions. They mirrored many of my own. I mean, understanding the community feedback, what we do to address the digital divide. I'd love to be able to come back to that because I think that's a reality in our district. I did want to specifically speak to the notion that board policy has our teachers determining the curriculum decisions, which makes sense, right? They are the experts in this field, and I appreciate that. But I do want to ask, how are we ensuring diversity of perspective based on the ethnic composition of the teachers who are piloting? I do want to just be aware when we are a diverse district and we're making decisions of this magnitude, is there intentionality in recruiting our work group?
So I'm just going to come over here to the piloting teachers. So how can I put this? We can't actually go out and say that we specifically want to kind of engage with teachers of certain ethnicities. Now, obviously, we put it out as broadly as we possibly can, and it's open access to basically all teachers. And there was a lot of outreach to schools, principals, and teachers to basically a call to to come and pilot. And thankfully, a lot of different teachers did. So in terms of the teacher, I mean, I can't speak to the diversity of teachers, but just to know that there's a broad base of teachers for sure. In terms of looking at the curriculum materials and how they meet the needs of diverse groups of students, then that is a lens which the committee does have to look at all of the materials. So, for example, if you're looking at some materials and you think, okay, this isn't going to meet the diverse needs of our students, then it's put to one side. It doesn't make it through.
So I appreciate this is an open call for participation. You hope that you get a sample that is representative of the community, but you don't really have an opportunity to be intentional in recruiting for that representation.
That's correct.
Do you have disaggregated data of who participated?
We do know that. That's a good question. I think we could get it for sure.
And a follow-up question to that is when you are assessing whether or not this curriculum meets the diverse needs of our student population, how are you assessing, is this, curriculum culturally responsive? Does it understand culturally responsive pedagogy?
So that's a good question. I know that in terms of things like, okay, for students with special educational needs, for EL students, for GATE students, that's certainly a lens which is gone through. In terms of the culturally responsive, I'll ask Aaron to speak to that if you know about that piece.
So in looking at the curriculum experience, our teachers had a limited experience, 1 unit in the program, to really decide if this was a program that was best for kids. We know that's a limitation for all pilots. One thing we did look at during the pre-screen, the paper screen, and the pilot was compliance with the FAIR Act, which ensures that curriculum materials showcase and highlight contributions to the field of science and engineering from diverse contributors. And we're happy to say that the publishers that we move forward, or the programs we move forward, do have opportunities for students to see folks of diverse backgrounds represented in the fields of science and engineering.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question was just around the professional learning for leaders. So I very much appreciate that moving forward, this is a part of the next steps that you've articulated. What does that look like in practice?
We are speaking to publishers right now about that, and so it's part of our kind of our negotiations with the publishers around how many days we get for them to help us with the curriculum materials. And so I'll give you an example. We met with the folks from Amplify recently, and we have, I believe it's 8 days, which we can then do for teachers, and they're also going to give us some days so we can work with site leaders as well, so that we can scale that. Also, what we're going to make sure is that we are training up our team here and also our group of science mentors who can then help train others as we keep on moving along.
Great, thank you.
And I can add to that one thing. As a teacher, if I were grappling with brand new curriculum materials and a brand new way of teaching, I would feel pretty stressed if this were coming onto me in August. So we want to start early. We want to start in the spring with preview days where teachers can come in and preview the materials and begin training in the spring so they can think about the curriculum in the summer and begin thinking about planning for instruction.
That's great. I appreciate that. Extremely important. Thank you so much for your hard work. I think the superintendent had a couple of comments as well.
Just very quickly, thank you, President Ryan. I just wanted to thank Matt, Mr. Petcho, our teachers for your commitment and this presentation. I think it provided very clear context for our board and for our community on all the work that took place in partnership with our teachers and others to bring the recommendation, but particularly to you, Mr. Petcho, thank you for the clarity with which you presented the information.
Team effort.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Student preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? The motion carries. Thank you again for all of the work that you've done, in particular to all the teachers who've piloted this. Moving on to item 9.2, the independent audit report for the fiscal year ending in June 30th of 2019. This evening will be presented by Rose Ramos.
Yes, good evening, President Ryan, board member, superintendent, and tonight we have with us Matt Nethaway from Crow LPP. He will be presenting the audit. We also have with us Karen Weicker, our internal auditor, who can answer any detailed questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me a few moments of your time. It is a very significant report. It's 124 pages long. However, I can tell you the auditor's part of that is limited to just 6 or 8 different pages. I want to take you to one page that holds a lot of information, and then we can discuss any questions or anything else that you have from there. But the page I'd like to draw your attention to is page 97. In 97, this page is a summary of the work that we've done, and it just tells a really good job kind of telling the story of what the audit covers. The first thing that we look at are the financial statements, and we are auditing the financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2019. And the results of that audit are for the firm, my firm, to provide an opinion on the financial statements. And that opinion is an indicator of whether or not the financial information is fairly presented in what we say is all material respects. We don't look at 100% of the transactions, but we use sampling and we look at the most significant items. And the results of that were an unmodified opinion. That's exactly what we'd be looking for. So we have indicated that the financial statements are fairly presented. We do draw attention in that opinion to page 61 of the report, which is a footnote that describes some of the fiscal challenges that the district has had over the past couple of years. Again, it's important as auditors, we don't provide an opinion on everything in here, but to draw the reader's attention to that footnote because it is a significant item that's included in the district's financial statements. On page 97, as we continue on, we see a couple of answers to whether or not there were internal control material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Again, that's what you'd be looking for. We had nothing of a significant nature that came about. And in fact, we had no non-compliance material to the financial statements. We had nothing to report. Again, as a board member, exactly what you'd be looking for as you open this report. The next section that we provide an opinion on is federal compliance. And again, the first couple of questions indicate that we did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies related to internal control over your federal programs, federal compliance. It does list out the two programs that were audited in the current year, the Title I cluster and the Child Care Food Program. The reason why we indicate this is that not every one of your federal programs gets audited every year, but your most significant programs, your largest programs, are required, those over 2.5 million, are required to be audited at least once every 3 years. So these are the two programs that were audited in the current year. And again, our opinion was an unmodified opinion for both of those programs. Lastly, we look at state compliance, and if you turn a few pages back in here, you'd see a lengthy, a whole page of compliance requirements that the state has us look at in terms of various areas throughout the district. We go out and interact with site personnel and look at things like attendance records. There are compliance areas that the district office where we look at expenditure details in terms of how monies were spent. And as a result of that, we issue an opinion on the financial statements. This one you see the word qualified. And the reason for the qualification is because there are two items that we found in relation to the state compliance work that is detailed on the pages that follow. So if you go back to page 100 and beyond, you'll see the two main items related to state compliance. The first one had to do with the attendance for the after-school and education program. The error rate was like 0.002 for what we found, and it did not result in any changes to the funding because you're over the 85% requirement from a funding perspective. So again, we're required to report this, and it is an area that's important to be diligent about, but it didn't have an impact on the district overall. The other item beyond that has to do with the CalPADS reporting for unduplicated pupil counts. There's a state system that you have to report your data into, and the auditors are required to come in and test that data. As a result, and this is the one area in the audit guide that is very specific in terms of what the auditors are to report if they find something in here. And so you'll find that there were a couple of students that the information didn't support their categorization in the unduplicated pupil count, and we were required to extrapolate the impact of that over all the sites that hadn't been audited in the current year. And so you'll see the results of that in the back of the audit report. So that's 2019-03. It goes on for a number of pages, again, because the state requires that we specifically call out each site and the impact to those sites, even though the total impact of this has to do with your LCFF funding and the percentage that's used there. So again, the level of detail is required here, but really the last page that outlines the total is the number that is going to impact the district. So those are the three main areas. Again, those are the opinions that we provided. I did want to comment on the fact, I mentioned that we go out to the school sites, we look at things like associated student body. We look at all the different departments, whether or not it be human resources, payroll. We spend a lot of time interacting with your employees. And really the results that you see here are indicative of your team doing a good job, whether it be the people out at the school sites that are taking attendance. We had no issues related to attendance that we were reporting in the current year, or your fiscal services staff and the work they do and the diligence they put into ensuring that the financial information is accurate. We had no audit adjustments. We had no changes to the unaudited information that you previously looked at and provided your approval over. That's the same information that ultimately we provided our opinion over as well. So with that, I know my time is limited. I'd like to answer any questions that you have about the audit report.
Thank you. First, we'll take public comment. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There are no public comments on this item.
We will take board member questions and comments at this time. First, Board Member Wu.
Thank you, President Ryan. I'm looking at page 62, 63, under note 13. Or, you see it?
Yep.
Are these directly from the district, or is this verified by you?
I want to make sure are you looking at note 13? Because my page number may be different than yours.
Management's plans.
Management plans. So this information is directly from the district in terms of needing to include in the financial statements their note in terms of what the possibilities are. We have to look at the information for consistency. So if there's something that's just really off from what we see elsewhere from an audit evidence standpoint, we'd want to call attention to that. So it is included in part of the as part of the audited financial statements, but yeah, not specific.
So, but is there anything that you believe is askew or doesn't make any sense with respect to the note 13? Let me be straightforward. Do you believe that the district is correct in reviewing or risk of financial insolvency by November 2021? Is there anything that you see in these numbers that would lead you to conclude that the district's numbers are not correct?
So maybe another way of me putting this would be part of our responsibility is to work with management and to evaluate if the district will be able to continue operations for 12 months beyond the day we issue the financial statements, we issue the opinion on the financial statements. Yeah. And if not, then there's specific language related to going concern that's required to be included in here. Our evaluation of that really focused on the most recent board-approved cash flow statements and to audit the data and the information that was included there. Again, we don't look at everything, but we have to look at the reliability of that information. And so we did evaluate that and look at that in terms of how we were looking at the future. So is the risk there that there is some insolvency? Absolutely, based off of district information. But it was beyond the period of time when we were as auditors required to really evaluate. We looked at for that 12 months out.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Garcia.
I thought I did a good job at tabbing my binder, but now I can't find my tabs. So bear with me. You covered quite a few of the areas that I had tagged. But let's on page 84, the ADA, the decrease, the numbers. The ADA decreased by 261 over the past 2 years, and then the district anticipates a decrease of 334 ADA for this fiscal year. Did you look into sort of those numbers a little bit more closely? It just seems like it's much greater than prior years, so it just kind of caught my...
You picked the one page that's unaudited because we don't audit that multi-year or projection information, but that is average daily attendance, so it is impacted not only by your enrollment, but also the utilization of how well we do at getting students to class. So management could probably speak to where the data has come from because we don't actually audit the information included here.
No, okay.
Oh, I'm like, where do they go?
It's just the numbers so much, it's much higher than in prior years, so I just, if there's an answer, if tonight, maybe later.
Okay, comparing
Just
from
checking
prior
this.
years. Yeah, if I could get back to you on that, let me take a deeper look at that because that is going back a couple of years. Yep, let me provide that later.
And then another question I had was on page 120, so it's the LCFF dollars, so the unduplicated count. And then the impact by approximately like $630,000. I'm just wondering how does that play out in terms of the district's budget? Is that next year? And I'm just trying to figure out when we're going to feel that impact.
Yeah, so the corrections to things like an audit finding come in subsequent periods when they do true-ups and corrections to prior year. So that is an amount that you would feel impact of in the future. Once the audit report is accepted by the State Controller's Office, you have the opportunity actually to appeal the finding with the Education Audit Appeals Panel, and that and hopefully provide some relief for that. That would impact then those future adjustments to LCFF. But the prior year corrections to those numbers for like audit findings, or even if district was to change data, do come in a subsequent period.
Is that correction like all at once, or is it sort of divided into maybe three payments?
I'm not sure how it impacts how they roll the funding out throughout the year. I'm not sure on that.
Okay. And then ASB issues on page 123. So is this a finding from last year maybe? Is that what it is? I was just trying to figure out, because it seemed as though you sort of did a look back and then reported on recommendations that were implemented, but I didn't see that there was a recommendation implemented for this particular issue. So I don't know if you have additional comments on that.
So on this page, we're required to take anything that we reported on in the prior year and then give a current status of what there is. And so that's what this is doing. It's looking back and saying, here's the current status. You'll see implemented, because we didn't have similar type findings in the current year. And we don't look at every site every year. We do have a rotation basis. So I know it's important for your team to continue to stay focused on providing the training and the support for the school sites for student body. But in the work that we did, we didn't have any findings or recommendations that we found with the sites we visited in the current year.
Okay, so at some point we'll hear the status of that issue overall, if policy needed to change or something, or practice, I'm not sure. If you have an answer tonight, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too.
Sure, this is on the,
prior year.
oh, okay, on the ASB. Yeah, yes, we do. And what when we notice that we have some particular issues occurring at some of our sites, then that's why we are fortunate enough to have our internal auditor, who will then tailor the presentations or the training for our sites and make sure that she is targeting those specific sites, and then rotate so that all of our sites are getting that same information. So it's about the training. And then we also have to consider that depending on our staffing, we may have turnover at sites, and we may have staff that are unfamiliar with some of the regulations. And it just turns out that that particular year, when that site is audited, it may be we have new staff that are not familiar. So it's just a matter of continuously working with our staff, providing information, and trying to make sure that we are also doing these little mini audits throughout the year to try and find any incorrect areas before our auditors get there. But given that we didn't have any findings this year, it's pretty remarkable. If I could just comment, one of our previous auditors at another district I was at stated at one board meeting that a district that doesn't have ASB findings doesn't have ASB. So I was really surprised to see that we had no findings here. Yeah, I just thought I'd comment. So good job, staff, for really staying on top of it this year.
Thank you, Ms.
Well, thank you. So just wondering if there are any other internal controls that you think we need to address, or?
Yeah, so the audit report does have one item in there related to the journal entry process and who can review and approve. So we did make a recommendation there in our evaluation. You know, the audit doesn't specifically look at internal controls. We evaluate them in order to plan our audit, but we don't provide an opinion. I can tell you that we did not have other recommendations that we shared with management that didn't make their way into the report. And that could be, we would have talked about that in the executive committee meeting previously, and we'd be happy to talk to you about that as well here, because not everything reaches a magnitude that would end up in your audit report, but we did not have any additional recommendations to make outside of what you saw here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia. Board Member Morowski.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the ASB funds issue. So there were different sites audited for ASB funds this year, but no findings. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Oh, okay. And do you know how many sites, or?
Karen, I don't have that information available in the report here.
I was just curious whether it usually would be like one, like 2 sites or like a percentage of all sites.
So there's a couple of things that we do. One is we go out and visit sites individually. We also test Karen's work too. So we'll take that information and evaluate it and say, okay, how reliable is the work that you're going out and doing throughout the year? I don't offhand know the number.
I had 11 sites last year that I went out and audited.
And between us, we're looking at 20% of the school sites every single audit cycle.
Oh, okay, 20% of all, okay.
So, and you know, ASB is interesting also. I'm going to take 10 seconds here to tell you, all I provide an opinion on is the ending balance in your associated student body because of how it's reported in your financial statements. So whatever's there at the end of the year, we're auditing that, we're testing that, but that's all I'm providing an opinion on. We go out and we do this other work because we think it's really critical and important for the district, but ultimately my opinion is not really reflective of that. So the information is valuable, we go out and look, but ultimately it doesn't have a big impact on how we report from an opinion standpoint. Now that'll be changing because there's a new accounting standard that's going to be implemented in the current year where the ASBs are no longer going to be over in this fiduciary fund. They're going to become part of your special revenue funds. And so that's all going to change. You're going to see income statement activity related to student body going forward in your financial statement. So things will look, and we'll talk about that as we get to the next audit process.
It's helpful to know.
Just to clarify on that point, do you mean that there are findings, but they're not reflected here? I guess
Okay.
I didn't follow.
We did not have any findings and recommendations. We went out and visited the sites. We had them walk through transactions and show them how they process, show us how they document. And as a result of that, we didn't have any recommendations to make in the current period for the sites that we visited and looked at.
Okay, great. Well, I commend the work that's been done to improve those processes and make sure that the training is done. I wanted to go to, let's see, it's the other post-employment benefits section. And can I have you walk us through sort of what you do with this information? Is this all district provided information? Is this, or are you actually making these assumptions in here?
So you're referring to note 10, I believe,
Note
right, which is
10,
the other
note 10.
post-employment section. All of the information in this is either related to how your plan was constructed and put together or actuarial information. So you hire a third-party actuary and work with them on the assumptions in terms of your report. How we audit that is we look at the reliability of the actuary. We do look at the assumptions that were used. So there's industry standards in terms of what rate of return you're allowed to use, what the healthcare trend rate is, certainly the PERS and STIRS information. So we do look at the assumptions to ensure that they're consistent with industry standards and what we'd expect to see there. But ultimately, the extensions of those numbers and the reporting of the projections, those are all actuarial based, and your management works with them. They get into the audit. We audit and make sure it's consistent with what was in the report, but we don't make any adjustment to that.
Okay, thank you. But so you validate the assumptions of the actuary to make sure they're consistent with industry standards, and so those numbers are sort of, that's another check on the validity of the assumptions. Is that correct?
Correct. And in like, example, like mortality rates, what are they using? Now, I don't go back and check every single extension of what they've done with that, but what are they using? Are they using the CalPERS, the CalSTIRS data? Because that's what most of the actuaries are using. Are they using information that's from within the last 5 years, or is it outdated and old? We look at things like that from an auditing perspective, but ultimately, the amount that's included in the financial statement is a projection based off of that actuary's their basis with their professional standards, and I would tell you it'd be very, very rare that we'd find one that we didn't agree with. But I will tell you that we've challenged some assumptions at times, not specifically here in this situation, but that there is occasion where you can get to the point where something doesn't make sense. As an example, if you were using a portfolio return of 7% and yet you only had funded 5% of your liability, you really need to be looking at what's the government bond rate instead of using what you're earning on your trust, as an example. And so we've seen some in industry, seen some things come up like that, but we didn't have anything like that with your report.
Okay, thank you. One last question on the calculation, the unduplicated pupil counts. Can you just walk through again? I think you said it's an extrapolation based on certain sites, but how many did you actually review? I couldn't tell whether the numbers listed here were based on the actual review or were the extrapolated numbers.
So they're
There were a lot of
they were
schools
extrapolated
listed.
because there were only 2 students that were actually found that were of error. So the work that we did only had those 2 students. Well, work I did and the work that the internal audit department did only had the 2. So all the rest of it is the extrapolation of that.
Oh, I see.
Which is consistent with what the audit guide requires. So you have to say, okay, well, if I had 1 out of 10 and here's my percentage, how would that apply to each of these other sites that we didn't look at? Yeah, so the number that says that there were 15 school sites that were audited for this particular area.
15 school sites, and there were 2
students
that
that were
were-
misreported.
Oh, okay. But then that led to an extrapolation of 333?
Correct.
Okay, I'm trying to do the math. It doesn't seem to be adding up in my head, but maybe we can follow up on just to clarify the numbers. I don't want us all to be doing calculations in our head. Okay, yeah, I wanted to ask because the way the numbers were presented seemed like they're all trending in a certain direction. So I just thought, is there some kind of systemic issue, but it sounds like they're trending that way because they're all the extrapolated numbers.
Yeah, so what you're seeing there is the result of doing an audit, right? We don't look at 100% of what's there. And so the fact is there are a whole bunch of sites that we have to assume that there is an error in because the error was a systemic issue, right? You have all this data and there was some inaccuracy reported in that data. So the audit guide says, well, you have to assume that whatever you found there applies to each site that you didn't test.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then the outcome of that particular finding is that our actual revenues are reduced, like according to, is that what the state looks at to calculate? Do they actually reduce our revenues by that amount, or is that just sort of for our information as a projection?
What it's saying is that the district received LCFF funding that it was not entitled to.
Okay.
And that there will be an adjustment in future periods related to that, again, barring any sort of relief that you get through the appeals process.
I see. Okay, so that will be kind of clawed back from the state in that
Correct.
amount. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Board Member Pritchett.
I just have a quick question on page 13 for the district reserves and net ending balance. Under Fund 11, we just, as you sat through, we heard many public comments regarding adult education. And I was wondering if you can just explain the almost 78,000 left for the June 30th, 2019.
Which page? I'm sorry.
Page 13.
Page 13, okay. Okay, so the question is, what is the 77,000?
Yeah.
So that is and actually there's probably a page in here that would maybe better illustrate that particular program. That is the ending fund balance for the Adult Education Fund as of June 30th, 2019. Actually on pages 74 and 75, you can actually see a breakout of that fund individually and the activities for the prior year. Again, this information was in the unaudited actuals. But that fund had, on page 74, had assets of about 1.9 million, but it also had commitments of 1.9 million. And so the ending fund balance after all the resources fulfilled all the commitments was only $77,000 at the end of that process. On page 75, you can see all the activity related to that fund as well, if you're interested.
Okay, sorry, I didn't catch it on page 75. I just caught it on.
Well, it's
page
small print
13.
here,
Yeah,
so.
right. So Okay, that kind of explains it. So what was left was the 70,000. Does that get absorbed back in?
So that's sitting in that fund. There's, because the district has made contribution in excess of what that amount was, there is the opportunity to use that for programs other than adult education. So it's not legally restricted from a third party or anything like that, or a third party funding source. On page 75, you'll see that there was about $1.3 million of transfers into that fund from, I assume, the general fund. I don't have the information in front of me, but so that contribution was more significant than what's sitting there at the end of the year.
Right, and I know that when you're looking at it's also like a snapshot in time
Right.
as well. So it could just be that things weren't built out at that point, right?
Correct.
Okay, that explains it.
Is
Thank you.
as of that day, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have another question from Board Member Garcia.
So just trying to figure out, apart from receiving this information, what are next steps? How is this information then used? I don't know if there are any changes, revisions to any sort of, I don't know, financial statements or anything that sort of come next. I'm just trying to figure out then what.
Yeah, so because we didn't have any audited adjustments, you don't actually have to go back and make any changes to your books and records. Those rolled forward to your current fiscal year, and you're able to just continue processing. As it relates to the findings and recommendations, management has put in here their responses to those. We will come back and look at these areas again. We're working with Karen from an internal audit perspective to ensure that some of this data integrity and evaluation is a little more consistent moving forward. So again, management's put together their plans. We haven't audited those, but we will be coming back and revisiting those areas in the year ended June 30th, 2020. So we're completing last year's audit process. Next year's audit process is about to start. And so we will be reevaluating these areas. But yeah, your financial statements don't have to change.
Thank you. So I just have a last question. I appreciate the questions asked by Board Member Morawski to better understand what the extrapolation looked like. I do want to ask just one question, and this is about language, because I read around that finding that you essentially said that it was an overstatement, right? When you're extrapolating, the potential number of students that would be affected by the extrapolation was much higher than could be validated because you had a sample and then you had to apply a formula to that sample. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I will tell you, if we find errors that offset, we will reduce that before we do an extrapolation, so you do get credit if we find something that goes the other direction.
Okay.
Rather than just an overstatement. And an example of that would be if I came in and I was expecting a student to be included in your both FRPM and ELAS, and I couldn't get support for ELAS, that student would just move over into the free and reduced category. So it wouldn't have a negative impact on you. So we do look at other information. We do give you credit if we find information going the opposite direction in terms of doing this extrapolation. But how you characterize extrapolation is the process that we go through.
So let me ask you, I mean, it sounds like in reviewing the documents that this is, for the most part, as you use the term, an unremarkable audit in terms of the findings, no significant errors. How common is it to see some adjustments with free and reduced price lunch counts?
So in this particular area, as it relates to unduplicated pupil, it's an area of the audit guide that has a significant emphasis. We do a lot of work in this area where some other compliance areas may not be as in-depth. There's a lot of data that's managed by multiple departments in terms of what gets input into the CalPAD system. So I will tell you statewide that there are a number of, every year we have a number of our clients that unfortunately we find some discrepancies or errors in relation to this area. It's one of the more common areas from a state compliance perspective where we find errors with our clients.
And we have a process whereby we can appeal that finding. Do you know how often that is granted?
You know, I don't have any statistics on that. I have seen some relief come in this area in the past. It depends on kind of how you make your case, and I really can't speak to whether or not that'll happen or how often it happens. I just don't have that information.
I appreciate, Ms. Ramos, the attention you're providing to the site level data collection and ensuring the integrity of that data collection moving forward. I also want to just commend the team for all of the hard work that has gone into this audit. You know, clearly we would have liked to see no errors, but to have a largely unremarkable audit is encouraging. And once again, we appreciate the hard work of the business office that we know has been putting best practices into place over the course of the last year and a half. Okay, we have no other questions at this time.
Thank you.
It looks like Rose has one last comment.
Thank you, Matt. Just very quick, I would like to introduce our new budget director, Cami Calais. She joined us on February 10th. I haven't had the privilege of introducing her, and she's right here in the front row. Cami.
Hi, Cami. Cami, do you want to say anything, or are you a little taken off guard? We're very happy to have you as part of the team. Poor Ms. Ramos has been without that position for far too long, and we know there is no shortage to work. So thank you for joining Sac City Unified. With that, this is just an information item. We'll move on to item 10.0, the consent agenda. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Student preferential vote?
Yes on all open session.
Perfect. All those in favor? Aye. Any abstain? Any opposed? None. Okay. Item 11.0, business and financial information reports. Receive reports on enrollment and attendance. Do we have any public comment on this item? Since Cecile is not here, we have none. Item 12.0, future board meeting dates and locations. Our next regular board meeting will be held on March 19th. With that, item 13.0, a motion for adjournment.
So, second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.